Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome back to the reviews of the Jurassic World series. Joined, of course, once again by Jackie Boy.
Hello.
Join us today as we tackle the divisive and much maligned sequel to the fantastic relaunch that is Jurassic World, with 2018's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Oh, goody gumdrops. This is going to be a fun one. So, right off the bat, Jackie Boy, why don't you jump into your personal history with this one?
So, oh boy. Okay. Well, after Jurassic World took a decade or so to finally come out, and it was a huge hit, I loved it. I thought it was great. I kind of figured a sequel was on the table. They were probably going to do one, so I'm like, sweet. The predictions of the show, The Wrong Coast, have been corrected again. They predicted Mission Impossible 3. Now they predicted Jurassic Park 5. I never and that was the thought process. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd have to say we are getting Jurassic Park 5. That was surreal. Now, granted, I had been told that before with Jurassic World because that took a decade and I started to stop saying it. And that, actually, I'll say this. Fallen Kingdom was the first time I said to myself, believe it's happening when the cameras start rolling. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait that long. As soon as they started shooting, I said, wait, we're actually getting a fifth one. Okay. I know we again, I was so distrusted by the idea of another one that, like, as soon as they said we're doing it right now, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Wow, that was quick. All right, let's go. I'm all in. More dinosaurs, more action, more Jurassic. Let's go. And I had my kick on top of that with, The Force Awakens had also come out. So there, I had two great franchises to start following. Little did we all know the behind-the-scenes butt plugs that were involved here that were clogging up the shit. So
let's save talking about that for later.
So I actually had the privilege of seeing this movie early. One of the theaters had invited me to come see the movie, and there was an early screening. Ooh, extreme close-up. And I came out of it a little bit like, what? Okay. You know what's weird? So it's kind of, I will actually say this very quickly. I still consider this the Last Jedi of dinosaur movies. Now, not really an anti-Star Wars, as Nick has pointed out in the past, but more so just in terms of how it was structured, how rushed it felt, how it felt like the script was all over the place. And I didn't get that feeling with The Last Jedi. I came out actually at that movie enjoying it. This, I felt the energy. Now, when I first saw it, oh, sorry, whoa, okay, anyway, already, Nublar earthquake. I didn't know what to make of it. I wanted to like it. There were things that I was like, oh, wow, this is great. This is awesome. But it also, I had to think about, like, okay, this feels fast. This feels like, okay, we're already here. Like, one thing I noticed is that as soon as certain plot elements happen, I'm like, really? We're already off the island? Okay. That felt fast. And it's just, I felt something was off. Even though I enjoyed it when I first watched it, something was off. My opinion changed when I was introduced through recommendation feeds on YouTube, an amazing review by a certain YouTuber most people know nowadays by the name of Muller, who did a hilarious review of Fallen Kingdom under the title An Unbridled Rage. And the thumbnail is John Hammond screaming on the phone. That about sums it up.
I think I might have seen that before.
His review finally turned me around and said, oh, oh, this is not good. In fact, and what was so, this is how crazy Fallen Kingdom was in terms of where I rank it in the franchise. As soon I watched it a second time with Brad, and I still had I was starting to see, okay, now I'm having problems. Immediately went back and watched Jurassic Park 3. Just for curiosity's sakes. And Fallen Kingdom made me appreciate Part 3, and not only did it make me appreciate it, but come my latest Legacy reviews, I made a public apology to Part 3. And you know, your movie is bad when you have to go apologize for a movie you called for a long time a piece of shit. Like, that's how you know you're bad, when your shit is diuretically bigger than the last stinky shit. I guess is the best way to put it. Didn't one of these reviews at one point I went and took a shit and I said, that's the movie?
Yeah, it was last year's for Part 3. Alrighty. So what do you think of it now that you've given it a rewatch all these years later?
Watching it again, like this was 2018, right? So this is like 7 years ago that came out.
Almost.
7 years later, I still rank it the worst of the series. It's very much tied with Dominion. But do I think there is some stuff that I still think, okay, that was good? Yes. Does it redeem the movie? It is literally a tie. It is literally they can't, the good and the bad cancel each other out, where I can't really decide. And I think that's technically a worser opinion than saying if it's good or bad.
What if you factor in Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory?
They do. Okay, this is weird because like they do. It's like the Clone Wars. It does fix some things, but not a lot. In fact, I actually think with Camp Cretaceous, its entire storyline kind of brushes over the everything in Fallen Kingdom. There's like one hint to the volcanic eruptions, but that's about it. Ooh, that's about it. And so it makes me think, did even Camp Cretaceous know, oh, this movie's bad? We can't acknowledge this too much. I think had they did acknowledge it more, it might have redeemed some stuff with the movie. The only thing it kind of does is just realize, wow, Isla Nublar is massive. It's not just an island. Like, I know, and here's what's crazy. Isla Sorna is a bigger island. And we only got to see it in 2 films. I think there's a lot more to explore on Site B, but that's not the point. The point is, let's focus on this island. And there is a lot to still be desired, but we will talk about that in our pros and cons.
Okay, so Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, kind of like with Jackie Boy, now that I had actually seen Jurassic World, immediately afterwards, when I saw how successful it was, I was like, now they're making a sequel. You can't make $1 billion movie and not make a sequel nowadays.
$1 billion equals double billing.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, I'm okay with that. Like, 2015, as we mentioned, was the beginning of the Hollywood Renaissance. And I was all for it. And especially with the success of The Force Awakens, I just knew, yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of resurgence in classic franchises for the next few years to come. And of course, when it was announced that Fallen Kingdom was on the way, I wasn't really surprised, but I was excited. But I kind of similar to the 2018 The Predator. When it came to the production of this movie, I just kind of kept my nose out of it, and I just kind of kept to myself. I paid attention to the release dates. I paid attention to a little bit of the hype. I like kept track of when it was coming out, but for the most part, I just kind of stayed away from it. Not that I didn't have faith in it necessarily, but 2018 I think was the year when I really started to just like restrain myself from getting too involved with hype. There have been some exceptions like Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla X Kong, and that's about it actually.
I mean, there is Monarch, and I heard Monarch's good. I need to watch that. Skull Island was okay, but Monarch I've heard is I'm excited for the next season. It's all back on Skull Island. Hell yeah, more of that.
Moving on.
Anyway, different island.
Yeah, different island.
Long
Island. Yeah, 2018 was when I really started just restraining myself from getting involved with the hype. Mostly due to The Predator, but in hindsight, I found myself doing the same thing to Fallen Kingdom. So when Fallen Kingdom finally came out on DVD, this is the same DVD that I've had since day one. Of course, I picked it up. I rewatched Jurassic World and went straight into Fallen Kingdom. It was the perfect time to watch it because a lot of this movie takes place during the dark, rainy night. And that's when I watched it. It was during a dark, rainy night. So I was like, ooh, nice added
good idea.
Added atmosphere. So I watched it in one sitting, and my initial impressions were I thought it wasn't quite as good as Jurassic World. Like, it wasn't as big, bombastic, and action-packed as Jurassic World, but I thought it was a decent follow-up and a worthy successor. But funny, around the same time leading up to the release of Jurassic World, I started watching a Jurassic World YouTuber or Jurassic Park YouTuber called Clayton Fiority. Now, for those of you who don't know, Clayton Fiority, excuse me, is essentially the Jurassic World YouTuber equivalent of like the Stupendous Wave or Star Wars Theory for Star Wars. Like anything and everything Jurassic Park and Jurassic World lore related, Clayton Fiority has done an expansion video explaining it. And he does or at least he did do a really good job. I haven't watched his content in a long time, but I do see that he is still producing content to this day.
I still watch him. He's moved on to other stuff, though, but he's still giving the same energy. I know there's been some controversy with him, but, like, I don't let that bother, like, separate the art from the artist, basically.
And kind of something similar to, like, Mr. H reviews with what he was doing to The Predator 2018, like saying why this was changed for The Predator, why that was changed for The Predator. Clayton was doing the same thing for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, why this was cut from Fallen Kingdom, why that was cut from Fallen Kingdom. And I just couldn't help it. I got sucked into a lot of that stuff. And the more that I found out what was changed and what was cut from Fallen Kingdom, the more my opinion of the film really began to sour. And for a while, I did consider Fallen Kingdom to be the weakest link of the Jurassic Park franchise. That is until Camp Cretaceous came out and then Dominion. But so I've seen this movie only twice. I literally just got done watching it about 3 hours ago for the second time since 2018. So nearly 7 years later almost, I can say I did like Fallen Kingdom more than I initially thought that I did. Like, looking at the film in its current state, it is an enjoyable creature feature. But there's a lot of problems here that Jackie Boy and I will be discussing. So this is a mixed bag for me. Not exactly in the same vein as Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park 3, to me, definitively is still the most middle of the road Jurassic Park film. But Fallen Kingdom is probably the biggest mixed bag thus far, because I've only seen Dominion once. So my opinion on that also might change when I get around to seeing Dominion again. But yeah, this is a huge, huge mixed bag for me. There is a lot to like. There's actually quite a bit of stuff to like about this movie, but there's a lot of issues that either almost cripple the film or just stick out like a massive sore thumb, which is unfortunate because there was a lot of potential that this film had going for it, but in the end, it was kind of squandered by a bunch of dumbasses.
It's funny you bring that up because what was it, the oh damn, I had a thought. I look at that it's had potential. And the best way I can describe the movie is if you take that disc and you digitally put in Anakin's face, and it's him saying, "It's all the studio's fault. They're jealous. They're holding me back." That's how it feels. In fact, you brought up that Clayton Fury is the Star Wars theory of YouTube. I'd argue with Mahler very quickly that if he is the Mr. Plinkett to the prequels with the sequel trilogy. Like, if Plinkett is to what the prequels is, Mahler is the sequel trilogy. There is none for the original trilogy because the original trilogy is great.
Alrighty, so once again, we're going to jump into the plot. And Jackie Boy, once again, you and I are going to jump back and forth, but this time I will start us off.
Okay.
6 months after the Indominus Rex incident on Isla Nublar, a small mercenary team arrives on the abandoned Isla Nublar to collect DNA samples from the Indominus Rex's remains in the Mosasaur Lagoon. After a two-man team collects a bone sample, the Mosasaur, which in a scene that scared the shit out of me first time I saw this, devours the submersible. The T-Rex attacks the team, but the surviving members escape with the sample by helicopter. The Mosasaur swims through the partially open underwater gates into the open ocean, which is a major continuity error, unfortunately, but we'll get to that later.
That's a not so clever girl. 3 years later, a U.S. Senate committee debates whether Isla Nublar's dinosaurs should be saved from the impending volcanic eruption or left to die. Basically, if dinosaurs have rights. Charlatan Dr. Ian Malcolm, once again played by the wonderful Jeff Goldblum. Now, you do plan to have more of him in the next movie, right? Hello?
Hang on.
Testifies.
Chaotician,
right. Testifies that the dinosaurs should perish naturally to correct the wrongful cloning done by John Hammond.
Meanwhile, Jurassic World's former operations manager, Claire Deering, has established the Dinosaur Protection Group to save the animals. After the Senate votes against government involvement in rescuing the animals, Hammond's former partner, Sir Benjamin Lockwood, invites Claire to his Northern California estate. Real quick, Benjamin Lockwood being played by James Cromwell, great actor.
AKA the farmer from Babe.
Lockwood and his aide, Eli Mills.
Wait. Oh. I see what they were doing. Oh, I just put two and two together. Oh.
I'm guessing he's a character from the books.
No, I don't know if he was in the books, but it sounds like they're wink, wink. We don't like this person. Oh.
Well, no shit.
Oh.
Eli reveals a plan to relocate the dinosaurs to a new island sanctuary, which is a idea that I strongly agree with, but it's a shame that never happened.
Never see that
but
island.
Whatever. Claire is needed to reactivate the park's tracking system to locate the animals, in particular the Velociraptor Blue, the last surviving Velociraptor, of course. She recruits Owen Grady, again played by Chris Pratt. By the way, Claire again being played by Bryce Dallas Howard, the former Velociraptor trainer, to help capture Blue.
On Isla Nublar, Claire and former park technician Franklin Webb.
Fuck me.
I'm just going to say this right now. The Jar Jar Binks of the franchise.
Yeah, that's an insult to Jar Jar Binks.
I don't care. Let's just go with it. Reactivates the online tracking system. Owen paleoveterinarian Zai Rodriguez, actually a more annoying character, and a mercenary team led by Ken Wheatley track and find Blue.
Ken Wheatley being played by Buffalo Bill himself.
It rubs the lotion on its scales.
You're a great big fat person. Ted Levine. No Silence of the Lamb jokes from here on out.
All right.
The encounter escalates, resulting in... Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the encounter escalates, resulting in Blue being shot and Wheatley tranquilizing Owen, totally out of nowhere. Wheatley abandons Owen, Claire, and Franklin on the island while forcibly taking Zia hostage to treat Blue. A volcano eruption begins, causing a massive dinosaur stampede and forcing the trio to escape. The ship, loaded with captured dinosaurs, departs as the remaining dinosaurs are left behind to die in the eruption, in a very difficult scene to watch. The trio sneaks aboard the ship and helps Zia transfuse Blue with Tyrannosaurus blood to save her life. I don't think this would work, but genetic engineering, whatever, who the hell cares?
The captured dinosaurs are actually being transported to the Lockwood estate, where Lockwood's orphaned granddaughter, Maisie, overhears Mills and auctioneer Mr. Eversoul, that's an evil soul for there, secretly planning to sell the dinosaurs on the black market. They will also preview the Indoraptor, a weaponized transgenic dinosaur created by genetist Dr. Henry Wu, once again played by B.D. Wong, using Indominus Rex and Velociraptor DNA.
Wu needs Blue's DNA to create an improved Indoraptor that follows commands, unaware that her blood is no longer pure. After Maisie informs Lockwood about the auction, he confronts Mills, who murders him. Maisie is later revealed to have been cloned from Lockwood's deceased daughter, and the reason why Hammond ended their association. Quick spoiler for Dominion, but doesn't that retcon this reveal?
Yes, they did exactly what they did to Rey in The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get to Dominion.
Yeah.
Continue.
The auction dinosaurs are being immediately shipped out. Franklin evades capture and frees Zia, but Owen and Claire have been apprehended. Owen incites a Stygimoloch to break open their cell. Actually, I think a Pachycephalosaurus would have been stronger. The two encounter Maisie and learn the Indoraptor is being sold, despite Wu's protests that it's a prototype.
Stygimoloch was about the same size as Pachycephalosaurus. So
I think Packy had a bigger, stronger bone crust.
Nope, they're about the same size.
Huh.
Owen disrupts the auction by luring the Stygimoloch into the room. That's a hard word to say. In the ensuing chaos, Wheatley tranquilizes the Indoraptor to extract a tooth as a trophy, but the hybrid, feigning unconsciousness, kills him, along with Eversol and the others as it escapes. I hereby nickname the Indoraptor Clarice. Hello, Clarice.
Oh, God.
The Indoraptor...
the Lambs jokes!
I lied. The Indoraptor chases Owen, Claire, and Maisie throughout the mansion until Blue, released by Zia, attacks it. After a standoff atop a high glass roof, both animals crash through it, killing the Indoraptor by impaling it on a Triceratops skull. though Blue is unharmed. When a hydrogen cyanide gas leak threatens the caged dinosaurs, Claire attempts to free them. Owen convinces her not to, but Maisie opens the cages to save them. As Mills attempts to escape with the Indominus Rex bone, Rexy appears out of buttfuck nowhere and devours him and tramples the bone. Owen, Claire, Maisie, Zia, and Franklin escape, while Blue and the other released dinosaurs flee the estate grounds after a pretty effective emotional scene between Blue and Owen.
In a new U.S. Senate hearing, Dr. Malcolm declares the beginning of a new Jurassic period, where humans and dinosaurs must coexist. The closing scenes depict the freed dinosaurs roaming the wilderness and outer urban areas. We have entered a new era. Welcome to Jurassic World.
Admittedly, both a good and bad way to end the film. Good because that is a cool closing line, but bad because, man, is it super sequel bait.
I want to say it reminds me of Conquest, the ending of Conquest, where Caesar's like, "For tonight, we have witnessed the birth of the planet of the apes." It has that vibe, which I'm like, all right, that was actually not bad. Ironic, they're both this is the fifth film. That was the fourth movie. Okay.
So, Jack, what do you think of this plot?
There's a lot that you feel was left out. There's a lot of things that if you put the stuff that was left out back in, it would make sense. There are characters that are kind of just suddenly here that we've never seen before. There are characters that are new, that are annoying as fuck. And there are villains that are generic, hinting at wink, wink, nudge, nudge current times, which we will not get into. And it feels like there's about maybe, I feel like there's two missing reels in this film.
I agree with a lot of what Jack here says. It's a mixed bag. In some ways, it does feel like it's trying to be a solid continuation of, I'm going to just quote Trevor Boy, because funny enough, there was another Universal movie that came out this same year that I think kind of suffers from a lot of the same problems. And if viewers of mine are familiar with what I'm talking about, they should pick up on this instantly. This movie does have a fair few similar issues in common with Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell. Funny enough, that's also a Universal movie, and that also came out around the same time. Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell came out May 1st, 2018, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out June 22nd in 2018 in the US, but it was released May 21st in the Y Zinc Center in 2018.
Actually, also, Halloween Returns came out in 2018. Another Universal movie.
Yeah. Well, I think they just distributed it, but okay. Anyway, so, yeah, I feel like at times, to quote Trevor Boy, there are a lot of moments where the script of this film is really trying, and there are moments where it does land on some of its ideas. Now, I still don't know for absolute sure if there was studio interference that hurt Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell, but this kind of paints both me and Jackie Boy's opinion of this movie. You can tell there was a lot of studio interference involved, and unfortunately, like Predator 2018 too, it does hurt the film in the end. And unfortunately too, even though Dominion tries to do a lot of damage control, I feel like a lot of choices in this movie did end up influencing how Dominion would turn out too, both on screen and behind the scenes.
In terms of studio interference, the biggest thing for me is that it feels like multiple people trying to grab the helm and say, "I'm the captain," and it's even I was going to say, it's even coming from people who shouldn't even be involved in the production, and they are anyway.
I will also say this too. This is something that me and Jackie Boy will also talk about. It feels like this movie is missing at least an hour's worth of footage. That's all I'm going to say for right now. So we'll move on to the next thing. I want to read this stuff real quick before we get to our pros and cons. So Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is, of course, a 2018 science fiction action film directed by J.A. Bayona. I do not know a goddamn thing about this guy.
If I may chime in, I've met him once. I have seen one of his other films prior to this, and when I saw that film and then he was announced, I said, okay, that's a good choice for a director. I had the pleasure of being at the premiere of a movie called The Impossible, in which he directed, which is about a family that survived the 2004 Indonesian tsunami, with Ewan McGregor, Naomi Watts, signed my con DVD, and an unknown at the time, Tom Holland. Met him there too. Nice kid. So I met Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darrow and Spider-Man in one day. Pretty cool. But when I saw that film, thought great director for this.
He also directed the first 2 episodes of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
I refuse to watch that, but maybe I'll check out those 2 episodes. He's a good director.
Of course, this movie, directed by J.A. Bayona, but it was co-written by both returning Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow. It is, of course, the sequel to Jurassic World and is the second installment in the Jurassic World series and is the 5th installment in the overall Jurassic Park franchise. Many, of course, characters from the first movie return and are played by the returning actors. Let's see. The movie was released May 21st, 2018 in the Madrid Weizink Center, but it was fully theatrically released across the U.S. June 22nd, 2018. And fun fact, with a whopping budget of $432 million, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is the second most expensive film ever made, right behind Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, by only $15 million. It was a big smash hit at the box office, the film grossing $1.31 billion worldwide, making it the 3rd Jurassic Park film to pass the $1 billion mark, and it was the 3rd highest grossing film of 2018 and the 12th highest grossing film of all time at the time. It did receive very mixed reviews from critics who generally praised the visuals, cinematography, music, and darker tone, and many criticized the screenplay and felt that the series had run its course. I don't know about that. And yeah, mixed reviews indeed. So you want to jump into our pros and cons?
Yeah, I will say this too with the criticism that I noticed too, like looking back on it. For those who had at the time, and still do to some degree, criticize the likes of The Lost World, saying that movie's terrible, this and that, which is bullshit.
Bullshit.
I would say that Fallen Kingdom is where those criticisms of The Lost World are actually justified. Not Lost World, but if you applied that to Fallen Kingdom, it's more justified than
It's
Lost
more
World.
fitting.
Because people say that, oh, this is just Lost World again. Characters being stupid and everything. But, like, at least I don't think that was the intention of Spielberg and co. on the second one. But this one, yeah, that's a mixed bag. But, yeah, with pros and cons, I have a grand total of, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have about 6 pros and 10 cons.
I have 8 pros, 4 mixed elements, and 8 cons.
So I guess
You
I'll
can go first.
Pro number 1. I will say this, and I say this actually with actually like really good impression. the tone. I do argue, and I will say one of the better things about the movie, despite the fact that unlike Jurassic World, where they cut away from the blood and violence, this is one of the darkest chapters of the series. I do, and that mostly comes from something I'll bring up in pro number 2. But yeah, I like the dark tone. I like how it's like very destructive. I like how it shows very much like a Planet of the Apes film, a very doomsday, not so happy ending scenario. I like how it, to some degree, pushes the boundaries of the genetic science that the first film said would suffer major consequences from. Now we see it taking the next step. I like that it's like also acts a lot more like the first one, where it's very much at times like a horror film, which is something that unfortunately I feel outside of like the first 3 films, the franchise has lacked. That sense of what the way one of the first movies so good compared to the other sequels is, oh yeah, it's not just family-friendly Spielberg dinosaur picture. It's also kind of a horror film. And I like how with what they've done here, they've kind of brought that back. Not necessarily in the first half, but the second act definitely brings back the horror elements. Not in the way I expected. I think having it be essentially a haunted house movie is kind of odd. But, you know, as long as you can bring the scares back, then you've got something happening here.
Pro number 1 for me is actually kind of the same thing that Jackie Boy was talking about. I describe it as a great spooky atmosphere. It mostly is in the second act, although I do think the opening scene too has a lot of those like creepy and suspenseful tone that we had from the first 2 movies, especially as I mentioned when the submersible is in the lagoon and the final shot before it gets eaten by the mosasaur. You don't really see the mosasaur creeping up on him until it starts to open its mouth. And then again, the first time I saw that, when I saw the teeth, I was like, and then I like how it you don't see the mosasaur eat the submersible. It just cuts to, you see the lights underwater and then they just cut. And like, you know what happens. And yeah, go ahead. Now I didn't really feel like they were cutting away from violence. It was more just like leaving it up to your imagination in a good way, in my opinion. But yeah, the second half of the movie especially is where the spooky atmosphere really slaps, in my opinion. Like there are some really good moments of suspense. There's some decent jump scares, which I'll get to in just a minute. And the fact that it takes place at night and it's piss pouring rain outside, it has a similar vibe to the original Jurassic Park. Like it's trying to emulate the tone and feel of the T-Rex paddock scene from the original, which I do like. And also the fact too, because Lockwood's estate is a very isolated location, that it doesn't quite give it like John Carpenter's The Thing vibes, but you kind of feel like you're trapped out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, surrounded by a bunch of man-eating dinosaurs. One of which in particular is a genetically engineered hybridized killing machine. So it definitely lends itself to feeling a lot more spooky and a lot more claustrophobic and creepy, which I really do dig. And real quick, I'll just get this pro out of the way too. There are some decent jump scares. This one's really brief. The mosasaur eating the submersible, that's a jump scare in and of itself. It's also a really well shot scene. I love when movies hide things in the background and you don't see them until it's too late. Another example too is when Claire, Maisie, and Owen are in the museum part of Lockwood's house, hiding from the Indoraptor, when Franklin turns on all the lights, and in that enclosure that they're in, they're like the lights come on and they're frozen, but then Maisie looks at her reflection in the glass, and then right at the last second, you see the muzzle of the Indoraptor. And I didn't jump necessarily, but I was like, the first time I saw that, and I was like, oh shit, there it is. That was really well done. And let's see. Oh, another one. This one was kind of humorous, but it still is an effective jump scare. When the helicopter escapes Rexy and in the opening scene, when the guy's hanging from that ladder, he's like laughing and saying, I escape Rexy. And then all of a sudden the mosasaur comes out and eats the dude on the ladder. I kind of was expecting it, but then I was like, nah, they're not going to do that. Oh, and then they do it. So I was like, okay, that was kind of cool. But yeah, I dig the spooky atmosphere, and I do dig the jump scares that this one's got. Oh, and this isn't really a jump scare necessarily, but it is kind of a shocking scene when the Indoraptor kills Buffalo Bill. Like, you think it's tranked, but then when you see it like mess with him with his tail, and then you see the shit-eating grin on the Indoraptor's face, you just know it's coming. And how the Indoraptor kills Buffalo Bill is quite surprising. So I like how that's done. But yeah, I like the spooky atmosphere, and I do like the jump scares. You can go through 2 pros since I did 2 myself.
I was to say, I love that moment too with the killing Buffalo Bill. I just love how he's sleeping and then he like opens his eye and he's looking left, right. He's kind of got that Spaceballs moment where it's like, Daddy, of course, my dear. Would I lie? He's got that look. I love it. It's great. It's very Looney Tunes based. It's like, me, I'm gonna get him, Dak. But to the point. Oh, word from our sponsor. Pro number 2 for me is J.A. Bayona's direction. I do think, despite this movie being cut to hell, rewritten and reshot to hell, that J.A. Bayona is not just a competent director, but he's a decent director. His direction does at times shine through in this movie. He knows how to frame the shots. He knows how to direct the actors and what they need to do. And he's also just got some great creative control here. Apparently, from what I've been told, the prologue that we see in Dominion was originally written for Fallen Kingdom, and that was his idea as a way to symbolize, and we were actually going to see more of it of the prologue, and it was going to include the meteorite that kills the dinosaurs as a symbolism mirror of the destruction of Nublar. That was actually all planned for this. They cut it out, or they just said, no, we'll save it for the next one. But that was an idea he had. I believe all the stuff with Maisie and the Indoraptor, which we'll talk about later, that was cut, that was his idea. He's a very creative director, and that, given his resume and his past work, does show. On top of that, outside of being a great director with the actors and everything, he's also, from when I met him and from what I've been heard about him, a very nice guy in real life. There's a reason also why it premiered in Madrid first, is because Bayona is of Spanish descent. So I think it was more just kind of like, hey, we got a Hispanic director directing this. Let's actually premiere it in his home country.
Spaniard. That's how you say it.
But he is, I think that was pretty cool, actually. I like that. I thoroughly, and it's funny because, the Costa Rican environment, one of my favorite tracks in the first movie is something that you don't see in the soundtrack, is that song that plays when, Nedry meets up with Dachshund. That's a really good song. I have the original track, but to the point, yeah. He's a great director, Bayona. Very, very well competent, always professional, and he knows how to make the movie look like it. He respected the first one, and I think when we bring up the whole horror tropes and how the dark tone, that's what makes Bayona's work so good. And if you've seen The Impossible, the guy knows how to direct a disaster sequence. If it's one thing to direct dinosaurs, but directing a disaster sequence with a volcano, I was like, okay, given his work with The Impossible and doing an amazing tsunami sequence, I want to see what he does with lava, with hot magma. And it's great. My next pro. Right. I have a few more pros than you. Shocking, I know. No, my phone. Pro number 3, the cinematography.
Real quick, this isn't. You can count this as a half pro. Yeah, the cinematography is really good. It's a very well shot movie. When they're on the island, they do showcase a lot of the landscape really well, and there's a lot of low angled shots that show off the mass of the dinosaurs, which is also kind of reminiscent of the first movie, which I appreciate. And in the second half of the movie, the camera work and cinematography is done to make the movie feel more claustrophobic and scary, which I also do appreciate. Which it's funny how you mentioned this is essentially like a haunted house movie, but with dinosaurs. That actually does that is conveyed with the cinematography and how this movie is shot in the second half. So I'll agree with you there. Continue.
You pretty much said everything I wanted to say. It is a
Good.
the way it's shot is spectacular. I do agree. Like it's a half and half for me. There's a con with that though, but I'll bring it up later. But seeing a much more grander scale of the Jurassic World is great. I think the lighting is really good. I think actually the lighting. See, here's the thing with like the opening scene with the dark and the rain. Now I understand if you want to pay tribute to the first movie with the T-Rex attack, I get that. But there was a bit of a concern at first because we had been seeing it was starting to become a trope where we always have to see the big scary monsters in the dark, in the rain, and the lighting because we have to tease the special effects because they're costing us a fortune. But thankfully, Bayona and the cinematographers knew we're not going to do Godzilla 2014. We're going to actually, once that T-Rex comes out, you see it. We're not teasing it. We're showing it. And I love that off the bat of this movie, they don't play around with the teasing. They say, let's get to the point. People want dinosaurs. Let's give them dinosaurs. And the cinematography, the lighting, all that makes that work. On top of that, the way the boats are shot, like I love seeing those shots of the boat at sea actually do help with the cinematography. I think the horror aspects of it being a haunted house, I think especially by the end, not just with the lighting in the house, but also a matter of the with the glass ceiling. The lighting that comes from like below actually does help the atmosphere of that scene. So, and that's also due to the cinematography, which really does shine here. That's pro number 3.
Alrighty. Pro number 3 for me is Owen and Claire. I actually do like Claire in this movie. Now, as I theorized, because again, I hadn't seen this movie since 2018, but I kind of figured because Owen and Claire would be together for a while, Owen would have seemingly taught her some skills about how to take care of herself better. And while that's not said, it is obvious that is what happened. Like her being with a guy who is a survivalist and an ex-Navy SEAL, she did learn some knowledge and experience from Owen. And here she's much more confident. She's not the timid, stick up her ass, highfalutin chick that she was in Jurassic World. Here, she's more confident. She's a little more flexible than she was in the first movie. She is a little more agreeable. She's a little softer and a little more just likable, in my opinion, in this movie. And thankfully, her chemistry with Owen is still really strong. There is one kind of mixed element that I have towards Owen and Claire, and it's going to sound kind of familiar considering we did Jurassic Park 3. Save that for later. But still, you can tell that the two still care about each other, and seemingly they just needed some time away from each other. But then once they come back, they realize, no, I actually really do love this woman and I love this man. So Yeah, their chemistry's strong. There's no bickering. There's no quarreling. There's no tension between the two, which I really like. There's maybe a little bit when they first come back, but it's mostly played up for laughs. But then, especially once they get to the island, they're just mixing together like two cogs in a clock. They're backing each other up. They're helping each other out. They're thinking mostly on the same brainwave, which I really do like. Um, so yeah, Owen and Claire are a great duo. They're a great pair of leading actors to lead this movie. They're a great duo. And Chris Pratt, there's not much to say about Chris Pratt as Owen. He pretty much is the same that he was in the first movie. Although I think he's a little more serious in this movie than he was in the first film. But considering what happens in this movie and all the shit that he goes through in this movie, I think that was warranted. So Chris Pratt does a great job as Owen. Bryce Dallas Howard does a great job as Claire. The two are a great couple, and I mean, I don't know. I like Owen a lot in Jurassic World, but I think, I know, I'm just gonna say it. I like him better in this movie than I do in Jurassic World. Next.
Pro number 4, the music. Now, I had stated in my original review that the music is okay. Like, it's definitely, there's something missing with it, and I still ring that true. Mainly in the Jurassic Park themes. Now, granted, it has more of an advantage now that with Dominion out, where they have more usage of the themes that John Williams provided than Dominion did. But here, there is parts where it feels like it's missing. I'll bring that up later. There's a con to this. But I will say that there are themes that Michael Giacchino created that are fantastic. Namely, the theme to the Indoraptor. I love the use of choirs in this. They are definitely upping the scale in the epicness variety. There are parts it's a little bit ridiculous. I don't like it in the opening title because it feels like I'm about to play Mortal Kombat or Primal Rage, and I'm like, it's like you see like the lava on the logo. It's like Mortal Kombat. It's like push start to play Primal Rage. Like, that's how I was feeling with this. Granted, a Primal Rage game now would be great. But to the point, that's a little overdone. But with the Indoraptor theme, what makes it great is not necessarily being the theme for this puppy right here, but what J.A. Bayona was inspired in creating the atmosphere. It is stated that the sequence where the Indoraptor is hunting down Maisie, and especially in the bedroom, was inspired by Nosferatu, the 1922 film. Obviously, he was inspired by Nosferatu. So in essence, for me, the Indoraptor theme would do better for Count Dracula in a Universal Monster Universe film than this movie. Now, that doesn't take away from it. Like, it's still a great theme for this creature, but I don't know why. If I were to make something with Dracula, which I have, I would use this as the theme to Dracula. It rings hollow. And that's another thing I will say, going back quickly to the directing and cinematography. There are times this movie feels like a classic Universal monster movie. When the Indoraptor is on the roof with the moonlight and the lightning and the rain, it is something out of the Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein. Like, the house feels like the Castle Frankenstein. You could tell Bayona was more influenced by the classic Universal monsters. That he would actually, you know what? Granted, he would do better at that, at a Universal Dark Universe movie, than this. Like, granted, he did good here, but imagine him directing a Dracula movie for Universal. Imagine him directing the Wolfman or something, or Frankenstein.
Why not just combine it all and have him do a remake of House of Frankenstein?
Or just do a remake of Van Helsing. I don't know. But to the point, the music is very much, it's not really Jurassic Park as it is other Universal horror films. It is the Dracula vibe, but also Jaws. When when you have the Mosasaurus in the opening and you hear the build up, that's Jaws. It is, bum, bum, bottom, 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 bottom. And but it's more bombastic, but it has that Jaws vibe. And to me, that's the Mosasaur theme. Because I feel like, in a way, it's one of the missed opportunities of the trilogy. Having more scenes of the Mosasaurus that are very much a tribute. If you bring in water dinosaurs, you might as well pay tribute to Jaws for Spielberg, because given Spielberg is making these, I think that'd be cool. Do a sort of a Jaws movie, but instead it's not the Megalodon, but with a water dinosaur, but not dinosaurs and monster birds. Fuck that movie.
You probably could argue it seems like that's what Rebirth is going to be doing.
Let's see if they can do a Jaws type sequence. I mean, I think but are we going to get the same music? I don't know. I don't know who's composing the music this time around, but yeah, I do feel like there is more akin to the classic Universal horror films in this movie in the score than the others. Now, it is still great to hear some of the original themes, but the fact they mostly played at the end of the movie is a little bit upsetting in the credits. Like, when you hear I'll bring it up later in my comments, but to the point, the score is actually held up a little better than I remember it being. It is one of the things I say I can go back and say, you know what? That was a solid score.
Okay. Pro number 4 is I like how they expanded on Owen and Blue's bond. Like, we actually do get to see more scenes of Owen. I like that they're not flashbacks in the traditional sense. It's just vlogs that Owen made of his progress of raising the original Raptor squad. And we get to see the beginnings of Blue asserting herself as the alpha of the 4 Raptors. Like, when Owen is trying to get them all to chill out, you can see baby Blue squawking and getting getting the other 3 to quiet down and pay attention. But I we see the beginnings of Blue and Owen's bond when he is faking weakness. She doesn't try to attack him like a big cat or nothing. She just comes up and nuzzles him and purrs and says hello. And I'm not gonna lie, baby Blue is adorable. Anybody who says otherwise, you're an idiot. But it's a very sweet, touching, and emotional scene that I really dig, and I think was quite well directed. And I totally buy it as, again, Chris Pratt. I meant to say Chris Pratt, not Owen Grady last time, but Chris Pratt really knows how to work well with CGI. And that's another scene that showcases that really is true. Yeah, that was a really cute scene, seeing the beginnings of Owen and Blue's bond. And they also, even though Blue has not seen Owen in 3 or 4 years, when Owen sees her again when he returns to the island, she takes a few minutes to really recognize him, but he's got the clicker in his hand and he's sticking his hand out, maintaining eye contact, just like how he was in the first movie. And then when she calms down and lets him touch her face, that sounds weird, but shut up, you know what I mean. It's also quite sweet and is a nice emotional reunion. And then it's cut short by the asshole mercenary showing up. But also at the end too, this really stuck out to me the last time on my most recent viewing. Again, at the end of the movie, when Owen and Blue say goodbye to each other, Owen saying to her, "Come with me. I'll take you someplace safe and get you away from all this." Without, obviously, because she's a dinosaur, she can't speak, but it's like she understands what he's saying and what he means. And all she does is she looks over at an empty cage and then looks back at him a little sternly. And Owen looks at her with a look that kind of says, what else can I do? And she chitters and then runs off and saying like, nah, I'm free. I'm good. So I thought that was really well done. I don't know if that was the intent, but I feel like that was intentional. So, yeah, Owen and Blue's bond is greatly expanded in this movie and is actually something that I didn't really pick up on the first time I saw this movie, but now that I have, it makes me appreciate this movie a little more.
She's a free bird. Actually, I'm gonna expand on that because pro number 5 for me is the characters of the first film, of the fourth one, the last one, are very well developed more. I will agree with you that Owen is actually better here than he was in the first one. The first one, here's what I'll say about Jurassic World with Owen in that one. He's channeling Harrison Ford. He's channeling Indiana Jones, Han Solo, the works.
And a little bit of Star-Lord. Just a little bit
of Star-Lord. But come Fallen Kingdom, Chris Pratt makes it his own. He finally kind of finds out, okay, we're not just going to do Han Solo. We're not just going to do Indiana Jones or Star-Lord. I'm going to make this a totally better character this time. And this time we see, like, for example, the fact that him and Claire at first aren't together again. That at first he's kind of like looking at her coming back while he's building his log cabin by hand, mind you. Does he ever go back to that? And he's looking at her like, the fuck you doing here? I want to leave me alone. Like, I don't, remember what happened last time you asked for my help? I'm out. He wants to just live in his little log cabin. You ever notice each movie he is constantly just trying to live in his log cabin and be left alone. But he's like that lumberjack in the forest who's like, he's like Rambo. No, he's not Star-Lord or Owen. He's Rambo. Because they're like, Rambo, we need your help. He's like, I just want to be left alone. So he's literally John Rambo. And John Hammond Rambo. So to the point, he's much more developed here. I do like how he's conflicted about going back to act. At first, I like that he says, no, I'm not going back for Blue. I'm not going back. Leave her alone. She's in the wild. Leave her alone. But then he realizes, well, if I don't do something about it, it's that line from Hidalgo that I remember. If the elements don't kill you, your fellow riders will. Sounds an awful lot like South Dakota. But to the point, that's a great movie. That's an underrated movie. Nobody talks about Hidalgo anymore. But to the point, Owen is like, you know what? I'm going to go help her out. I think there is still that bond that he still shares with her. And over time, yeah, we see that more. And I'm just going to be that weirdo here. As much as Owen and Claire are much better here than in the last one. I mean, thankfully, Claire has gotten rid of that Farquaad wig. Women, stop making this a thing. Snow White, stop making Farquaad wig a thing. It's not attractive. It's ugly. To the point, that relationships is great, but I'm gonna be that weirdo. I find his relationship, his love for Blue is a little stronger than his love for Claire. And I don't say that in a weird way. I say that in a way that, like, I believe in that relationship in terms of the connection more than I do him and Claire. Call me a weirdo, but you know what? I buy it more. And I know a lot of people have made that joke with Fallen Kingdom. I know Doug Walker, Nostalgia Critic, in his review, I think he said something like, it's time for the true love interest to come and save Owen. Blue!
Weirdo.
And it's a weirdo, weird, but the characters are much more developed. With the exception of Dr. Wu, he's not given much to do this time around. But it's really just Owen and Claire's movie this time around. And then on top of that, yeah, Blue is much better here. I have empathy for Blue. I love that moment where at first when he shows up and she pops out, she doesn't see his former like trainer. She sees a piece of meat. And that or she's like an old man who's like, hey! Like, and what I love is Owen goes to the Jeep from the Ford Explorer abandoned from the first one. So basically,
I knew it.
He's basically in the T-Rex paddock, right, from the first movie. Where's the clip? Anyway, to the point, Blue pops off, and he's like, hey, Get the fuck out of my house! Get off my property! And there is that nice bond there. And I also will say that when she shot, I was scared she wasn't going to make it. I actually was genuinely worried. And that will come into my final pro with this movie, but I'll bring that up in a sec. And yeah, I agree. The ending with those two is great. And hindsight with Dominion, that probably is where it should have ended, to be honest. I think that's where their chemistry ended, was with Fallen Kingdom. And it's funny how you bring up that it's almost like she understands and everything. And it's like, Blue, come with me. I'll find you a home. Am I the only one who wanted her to say, Blue is home? I actually was kind of expecting at one point in one of these movies for her to evolve to the point where she started talking.
Or at least developed a way of chittering and squawking that kind of replicated human speech.
Like a parrot.
Kind of, yeah.
Like a parrot. Like, imagine that. Like, I'd be like, and again, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've watched The Last Unicorn. I would have wanted some sort of feminine voice coming out of it. I wouldn't want like a male, like, a Caesar. I wouldn't want that. Well, I think something very soft spoken. I think something like you hear it in the clucking, but it is very soft spoken. If that was my decisions. I think there is something that was missing there with like the evolution of the Raptors throughout the entire series would have been interesting, but I don't know. Let's see what Rebirth does. But anyway, should I do my last pro while we're at it?
No.
Okay.
Pro number 5 is the variety of dinosaurs on screen. We have the return of Blue, the Velociraptor. We have a return of Rexy, the Tyrannosaurus. But we also see some new faces. Well, we have the Ankylosaur. We have the Triceratops. We have another Apatosaur. We have the Gallimimus. But we also have a Sinoceratops, which is another ceratopsian that looks pretty cool. And we have the first appearance of the Carnotaurus, which many fans of the books have been waiting to see in a Jurassic Park movie for a long time. Sadly, the Carnotaurus doesn't have a lot of screen time in this movie, which is getting into a con, but it at least looks great. And I am pretty sure this is supposed to be, I think his name's Toro from the first season of Camp Cretaceous, the Carnotaurus that the kids fight, and they actually set on fire at one point in the season finale. I think it is supposed to be the same Carnotaur. But all the dinosaurs look really cool. There's a scene where all the dinosaurs are trying to escape the cyanide gas, and it's weird to see such a large variety of dinosaurs like Apatosaurus, Sinoceratops, Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, T-Rex, Carnotaurus, Velociraptor, all in the same proximity, and they're not trying to kill each other. They're just trying to get the fuck out. And kind of goes to show that, these aren't just, good versus evil. It's just a bunch of animals trying to escape and survive. So I thought that was kind of cool. But not that much to say. This kind of goes into another one of my pros for this movie, but I do like that we do have a large variety of dinosaurs. Oh, and of course, Stegosaurus returns, and the Brachiosaurus returns, but that goes into a con as well. So the dinosaurs are cool. Oh, and of course, there's another new addition, but we'll get to that later. So go ahead. Wait, how many more pros do you have?
I have one more pro, and to add to that, also hi Spectro. Guy did the reviewer versus lore videos. One pro, you forgot one dinosaur, Baryonyx.
Oh yeah, the Baryonyx we see for the first time too. Wildly scientifically inaccurate.
Namely, and Allosaurus.
And Allosaurus too. That one looks cool. But yeah, the Baryonyx is quite scientifically inaccurate in this movie, mainly because it's a lot smaller than it was supposed to be in real life, but it also looks cool. I have 3 pros left, by the way.
All right, well, pro number 6, which is my last one. The special effects are a huge improvement over the last one. I had major complaints with the fourth film, that the over reliance on CGI, when in the previous three the balance between animatronic, practical, and CGI computer generated was perfect. Ford left a little more CG more than animatronic, except for one creature, which made it feel very imbalanced. And I feel like a lot of the close-ups of some of these animals felt less realistic in the fourth one because of the over-reliance on CGI. However, this time around, ILM did their part with the CG, and it looks not only way better, but on top of that, legacy effects, the predecessors, or not the predecessors, the proteges to the great works of Stan Winston are brought in full. In fact, I think this is where maybe a quarter of the budget went into this movie, went to the fabulous and amazing animatronics and puppetry that were very much a welcome return to the franchise. And there is a lot here. There are, like when Buffalo Bill rips the tooth out of the Stegosaurus, that's a full-size animatronic. That is a full-size animatronic. The blue operating, the operation tablet, which I will bring up the best part. But anyway, blue is an animatronic. The T-Rex. There is an animatronic T-Rex. And the best part about all these animatronics, as far as I've seen, very little CG enhancements. There are moments you can tell, yes, they CG'd over some of the animatronics, but they did try to scale it back because they realized, let's not take away the practicality and realism of the sequences. And to me, that's why these sequences actually felt more believable and more tense than the last one, because there was something right there for the actors to interact with, which made their reactions more real and authentic. So for me, the special effects are much more even, or we're now back to the first three films in terms of a perfect balance. And I will say this, the operation sequence with Blue to remove the bullet, that hit me hard. And mainly because what got me, the close-up of Blue's eye when they're digging deep, that I think that was a real tear. I can't remember if it was an actual practical element or CG, but to the point, it is a tight close-up of the eye in great detail, and it's completely animatronic. And you could, at that moment, you felt the pain. Now, I just want to point out, as somebody who recently, a couple months ago, got dental work done, like a cavity removed, and it hurt like hell, even with the freezing. I've had those moments. I am gripping my body in pain. Like, I know I am in pain. I'm not going to scream. I am holding it in, but those tears leak out. I know what that's like. So watching it again, I felt it. I believed it. And even I choked up a little bit because, like, damn, that's a real animal in pain. So for me, that is probably the biggest pro with this movie. The effects are such, like, they listened. They knew people complained about the CG and they said, okay, let's go practical. Kudos to you, Universal. You listen more than Disney does.
That's probably because Disney is way too overly arrogant and they think they know best, when in fact they're shooting themselves in the foot. Snow White. Moving on. Pro number 6 for me is there's some fun action scenes in this movie. It's not as action-packed as Jurassic World was, but what we do have here, the action scenes are quite entertaining and big and bombastic. The destruction of Isla Nublar with the big dinosaur stampede, yeah, is pretty damn entertaining. It's very harrowing. It's very fast-paced. It's very hectic and chaotic, no pun intended. And it feels a lot grimmer and a lot more like you feel the stakes and you feel the anxiety a lot more. Like you can obviously tell, like if a fucking T-Rex, Carnotaurus, Triceratops, and Ankylosaur are hauling ass to run away from something, you know something is fucked the fuck up. If you see herbivores and carnivores running side by side together, not giving a shit about all this food and threats that are right next to each other, you know shit's about to get real. And the destruction of Isla Nublar is a fantastic disaster sequence. And then all the action scenes that we actually have a little bit of hand-to-hand combat scenes in this, where when the Stiggy Mylock is, this is kind of a funny sequence when I'll just call him the Bonehead, when the Bonehead's running around smashing people and sending them flying through the air and eating shit against tables and such. That scene's a little funny, but when Owen's trying to take on all the mercs and try to get a gun or try to save somebody,
Very
when
indie.
it does feel kind of Indiana Jones-ish, but I like that Owen is just wading through all these mercs, fucking them up left and right. And I go into the cinematography, a lot of those action scenes are done in a lot of long continuous takes. There's no shaky cam, thank God. There's no close-up tight editing. It's just a well choreographed, well shot action sequence where a big badass dude is wading through mercenaries and fucking them up left and right. So I like that. And it's not really an action scene. Well, it kind of is an action scene, but the whole cat and mouse sequence when the Indoraptor is hunting down Claire, Owen, and Maisie, it's very intense. It's very suspenseful. It's very gripping and entertaining as hell. And it's also a bit spooky as hell. Like when the Indoraptor is stretching out its hand in Maisie's bedroom, fucking with her. It is kind of spooky. And yeah, it's a little like, it didn't really come off as much Nosferatu inspired. To me, it came off like it was channeling Alien a lot more to me.
Ooh, that or Freddy.
Nah, Alien for me, because Nosferatu influenced Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but yeah, to me it came off more like it was copying Alien, or at least channeling that kind of similar energy that Alien had, which was nice.
Alien 3, a little bit of Alien 3 at the shower scene.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, Blue's fight with the Indoraptor, it's kind of short, but I like how even though the Indoraptor is almost 3 times as large as Blue, Blue is just throwing everything she's got into taking on the Indoraptor, and she does land some good hits in. She doesn't necessarily, no, because she's the one who causes the roof to collapse, but it does feel like a good triumphant win when Blue roars in triumph over the Indoraptor's carcass when it gets impaled on the Triceratops skull, which that was a shocking kill. Like I was expecting maybe Rexy to show up and finish the Indoraptor off, but to see the Indoraptor fall from a collapsing building and get impaled twice at the same time on both of the Triceratops skull's horns, that was quite a shocking kill. I was like, oh,
Very Mortal
damn.
Kombat.
Yeah, it does feel a little Mortal Kombat.
Fatality.
I
want to bring up too with Blue, because remember how Dr. Wu said the Indoraptor needs a mother, and they wanted Blue to be the surrogate mother. The subtitles when Blue's roaring at the Indoraptor is like, "You want a mama? Mama's gonna teach you a lesson that matters, you little shit."
So yeah, the action scenes in this movie are pretty entertaining. Again, not as big and bombastic as if Jurassic World is Aliens, then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is channeling Alien and Alien 3. Yeah, I'd have to agree. And maybe a little bit of Alien Resurrection, but mostly Alien and Alien 3. But I do like that. That is pretty solid. And speaking of which, pro number 7 is the Indoraptor itself. Now, I do prefer the Indominus Rex strongly. And the name Indoraptor, Indominus Rex. At first, I did think that I kind of saw it coming. Like they're going to do a T-Rex sized dinosaur hybrid for the first movie, and now they're going to do a more raptor sized hybrid dinosaur. So I kind of did see it coming. And at first, I thought that the Indoraptor was kind of derivative of the Indominus Rex, but I mean, it is a natural next stage for the geneticists to go in, is to make, okay, we've made a giant hybridized dinosaur with the Indominus Rex. Now let's make something a little more human-sized. Now, Camp Cretaceous reveals that there is a second, more human-sized hybrid dinosaur in the Scorpius Rex.
I have that toy.
But I do prefer the Indoraptor over the Scorpius any day. One of the biggest things that I really like about the Indoraptor is how intelligent it is. Kind of like with what the Indominus Rex was going for, where it seems like it's a very sadistic, sentient killing machine. This monster, the Indoraptor, it just straight up is a sadistic, sentient killing machine. It has a fully fleshed out 3D character. It's very vicious. It's very sinister. It's very mean and nasty, and it's a fully. It's a monster in a different
serial killer.
It's a serial killer. It's a dino serial killer, straight up. It's like if the Joker or Victor Zsasz was a dinosaur, and I really dig
Jeffrey
that.
Dahmer fucked the dinosaur.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll give you that.
that image, don't you? Actually, it's funny too. I do say with the design, and I noticed this with the toy. By the way, one of the biggest, aside pro, the switch over from Hasbro to Mattel was an amazing choice, because the toys for Fallen Kingdom onwards have been amazing. And this superposable Indoraptor shows it. What I love about this design, and you notice it, it's got sort of a black viper snake-like feel, like vibe to it, like a black mamba, one of the deadliest snakes in the world. It's got that look to it, like even down the stripe, it's very snake-like. And you wonder if it had some of those attributes added to it to give it that more lethal horror, like scary vibe.
Probably was, yeah. I also like, it is quite a formidable dinosaur, because we literally see Owen shoot it with an AR-15, and the bullets don't penetrate its hide. It like pops the shells out of its skin. At first, it feigns being shot, but then it like rises up and pops the bullets out of its skin to like show, yeah, that's not going to work on me, bitch. So I like that. I like the Indoraptor. I prefer the Indominus Rex.
It goes from this to like actually on all fours. That's another thing. Like it can adapt to both.
Yep. Again, that is another trait that is taken from the Indominus Rex, because the Indominus also can be somewhat quadrupedal and then shift to being bipedal. But again, I do prefer the Indominus Rex strongly over the Indoraptor. But the Indoraptor is a nice addition to the Jurassic Park lore and is a great dinosaur villain. And my final pro number A, is I have to agree with Jackie Boy. Yeah, the special effects. Now, I still think that they're great in the first film. But now that I've seen this movie once again after 7 years, I think I would have to agree that the effects are better in this movie than they were in the first movie. Now, again, not to say that they were bad in the first movie. All the CGI is very well done in the first film. But since this movie had a near $500 million budget, they had a shit ton of money to funnel into the CGI to make it look pitch fucking perfect, and it does. The volcanic eruption looks spectacular. It looks like a real volcano erupting. All the lava that creeps towards Owen when he's trying to fight through his trank is very convincing. Again, goes to show that Chris Pratt knows how to work well with CGI. The stampeding dinosaurs when the volcano's erupting is really, really good. All the dinosaurs look really good. Rexy looks fantastic. The Carnotaurus looks amazing. The Indoraptor as well looks absolutely spectacular, especially when the Indo is outside, or the Indoraptor is outside in the rain, especially when it's creeping to look into Maisie's bedroom. Looks totally seamless. And when the Indo is on top of that glass ceiling, stalking Owen and Maisie, and then looks back at Claire, totally seamless. Blue also looks really good. The Mosasaur looks really good too. All the underwater shots, especially when the Mosasaur is swimming through the lagoon, and when it's swimming through that big giant wave, stalking the surfers at the very end. I would shit my pants if I was to see that.
My God.
No, thank you, smank you. Miss me with that shit. And yes, the biggest addition to the special effects in this film is there is a lot more practical effects. There's some practical compies. There is, of course, a fully animatronic Blue as she's being operated on. There is an animatronic Stegosaurus. There's an animatronic, I think, baby Triceratops, maybe.
Can't remember.
And of course, I think there might have been some animatronics for the Indoraptor.
They were CG'd over.
But for me, the biggest highlight is the animatronic T-Rex. I think I was going to say this earlier. I think the only way that the animatronics were somewhat enhanced with CG, it was done to show them breathing. I think that's it.
No, that was practical, but it was more like, I think it was more like the eyes and the mouth needed some enhancements, and some of the like the breathing in the nose, but not through the lungs. The lungs you could do practical with no problem.
Regardless, it's very minimally done, and I really do appreciate that. And I think it is very well, because there's many shots I couldn't tell. With the animatronics, I couldn't tell what was CGI and what was not. But yeah, the effects are absolutely spectacular in this movie. And yeah, I think they're better than the first one. Not by a whole lot, because I still do think the effects are really good in Jurassic World. But the inclusion of a lot more practical effects, and the fact that they had a shit ton of money to funnel into the CG to make them look really good. Yeah, this movie drastically improves the special effects in a lot of ways. So that's probably the biggest pro that I can give this movie. Effects are great. Had Stan Winston still been alive, I think he'd have been proud of this movie.
They do have a lot of his proteges on this. I know, I can't remember, I think Crash McCurry, and there's one guy who's been with Stan Winston since the beginning of the first one. And he was one of the primary effects directors at Legacy Studios. He was sort of Stan Winston's actual, like, legit protege that passed the torch. And John Rosengrant, I think, was the guy who did a lot of the stuff for this one. And he did take a lot over from Stan Winston. So tried to respect his legacy as much as possible.
How many cons do you have?
I have 10.
Do you have any mixed elements?
I will say maybe. Oh, that's tough.
I have 6 mixed elements. So let me just get through, because some of them are really brief.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let me get through this. Mixed element number 1, I don't much care for Owen and Claire breaking up between Jurassic World and then Fallen Kingdom, but then they get back together at the end of this movie. It just feels a little pointless. Now, maybe they were trying to do another thing like they did in Jurassic Park 3, but then they realized, yeah, people didn't like that in Jurassic Park 3. So, and it is well done. Like I said, Owen and Claire do still have really good chemistry, and it is obvious that they still do care about each other. And it is believable that over the course of this extremely harrowing life or death situation, that they actually do realize they still love each other, and they end up back together by the end of it. So that is nice. Huh?
With an adoptive child.
But it just feels a bit played out and predictable. Like, you know, these two are going to end up back together. Come on now.
They see Maisie. It's like, let's adopt them, Daddy.
Mixed element number 2. I appreciate what Jackie Boy was saying about the music, but I think the music is more generic. Mainly, it's just because it doesn't really sound very Jurassic Park-ish to me. And I'm not a fan that they saved most of the Jurassic Park themes for the end credits. It just feels more just like a missed opportunity. Like you return to you return to Isla Nublar for the first half of this movie, so why the hell not have some of the more softer themes from Jurassic World? Like, why not? So now there is some music that does enhances the creepy scenes in the second half of the movie, and there is some decent like action movie music that is fitting for the action scenes, but that's the main problem though that I have with the music. It just doesn't sound very Jurassic Park-ish. So it's not bad, but it's very unremarkable in my opinion.
I'm actually going to take 2 cons and make them mixed elements.
Hold on.
All right.
Mixed element number 3. Jeff Goldblum is underused and kind of preachy. As me and Trevor Boy talked about with both The Predator and Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell, 2018 seemed to have a hard-on in a lot of its sci-fi movies for talking about climate change. And here, it also does feel very preachy and shoved down your throat because The Predator did it, Venom did it, Rampage did it just a little bit. Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell does it, and this movie does it. And actually, aside from Cold Day in Hell, no, Predator's the worst. Yeah, Predator does that one the worst. But it's mainly because of Jeff Goldblum's appearances. That's why it feels preachy. Now, it's cool that they brought Jeff Goldblum back because, you know, it's a nice acknowledgement, again, a nice acknowledgement of continuity. But he's literally, I think you said it once, he's literally just here to say once upon a time, and then they lived happily ever after not. He's literally just a bookend for the film. But all of his dialogue is so preachy. He's just regurgitating the same shit. The de-extinction of dinosaurs is bad. What John Hammond did on Isla Nublar is bad. It's the same shit that he was talking about in Jurassic Park 2.
And not one. I didn't notice that he
So yeah, it's nice that they brought back Jeff Goldblum, but his dialogue is preachy and he's underused.
His uhs were
Mixed element number this is mixed element number 4, excuse me. Mixed element number 4. This movie should have been R-rated. This movie's very tame, in my opinion. Sure, there are some gruesome kills, mostly for the Indoraptor. There's hardly any blood. Like when Buffalo Bill gets his arm bitten off, there's 0 blood. And it sticks out like a sore thumb. In my opinion, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
One reason.
I know what it is. Yep. Mm-hmm. Of all the Jurassic Park movies, this is the one that should have been R-rated, in my opinion. Because this movie already, I mean, I don't think it's fully an anti-Jurassic Park movie, but this is the one that is the most different from the Jurassic Park formula. And I just feel like that's another missed opportunity that this movie didn't do. in showcasing a full-blown R-rated dinosaur movie. It's a shame. Mixed element number 5 and 6 kind of have to do with each other, and I already kind of talked about this. So mixed element number 5, while there is a big variety of dinosaurs that we do see, and the effects are all fantastic, they're underused. There's actually one of my cons that even further goes into underutilization, but like the Sinoceratops we see for only a couple scenes, the Carnotaurus we only see for a couple scenes, and both times it gets its ass kicked by Rexy. Stegosaurus is underused, Triceratops, and all the dinosaurs are underused. They look great and they look cool. They're great additions, but I want to see more. Oh, and the Allosaurus and Baryonyx, both literally only in 2 shots, underused. And mixed element number 6, I see what they're doing with it, but I'm not exactly a fan of how the Indoraptor is saved for only the last third of the movie. I like that they kind of, like, they show bits and pieces of the Indoraptor, kind of like what they were doing with the Indominus Rex, and also this feels like what they were doing with Alien. They were showing only bits and pieces here and there to, like, create some suspense for the full reveal of the Indoraptor. But my issue is that they don't even talk about the Indoraptor whatsoever until it reaches its hand out and tries to claw at Maisie when it goes down, when she goes down the basement. Like, you see this dinosaur arm reaching out of a cage, you're like, what the hell's that? And then a few minutes later, they haul out this more raptor-sized version of the Indominus Rex, like, oh, Horror and Metal is here. Yo, Horror and Metal channel. It just feels a bit jarring. The Indoraptor's cool, and it does cool shit, but it just leaves you thinking, where the hell is this coming from? Go ahead. Mixed elements.
My 2 mixed elements. One is, yes, the music. I will make this a mixed element because while I like it, again, it's lacking because it doesn't have the themes. It's mainly in this is what
there it is.
In the closing credits when you hear the classic theme, that should have been played when they fly to the island. Yeah, it would have been predictable. Yeah, it would have been cliche. And like, yeah, we've seen this over and over again. But it's Jurassic Park. It's like a tradition. It's like the pagoda getting knocked down in a Godzilla movie.
Or the Star Wars opening crawl.
Yeah, you kind of just have to do it. Even when I did my reviews this year, I did it because I'm like, I'm not going to do what they did. I'm going to do what they should have done. Honestly, a re-edit of this movie with different music cues actually might have saved this a little bit, even if you use the old John Williams, Don Davis stuff. Mixed element number 2 was originally a con. It was originally a con, but I have to backtrack here. While I love the cinematography, I'm not a big fan of Jurassic Park going CinemaScope, where it's like a more wide screen. Because if you notice in the first 4 films, it was more of a open matte, basic, 16:9 aspect ratio, whereas this one's going more for that widescreen CinemaScope look. And to me, I didn't bring this up in my review, but it felt less like a Jurassic Park movie and more like a 70s Doug McClure Land That Time Forgot movie. Felt more like something out of a Doug McClure dinosaur adventure than a Jurassic Park movie, and it ultimately kind of makes it feel less. I think had you cropped this to the 16:9, it would have felt more appropriate to the series. Now, the only reason I'm backtracking this is because I noticed this now. Rebirth is doing the CinemaScope. So, like, every other film is 16:9 CinemaScope, 16:9 CinemaScope. That's okay if you're going to go back and forth. But you know what? Some consistency in the aspect ratio of each film would have made them more easier to understand and watch and feel more Jurassic to me. So those are my only 2 mixed elements. It's some music cues are missing, and the way it was scoped out in the cinematography, yeah, it doesn't match the other movies.
Okay, so
So now I'm
let's.
down to 8 cons.
Okay, so we have 8 each. I'm gonna go first this time.
Okay.
Con number 1. I fucking hate Franklin. I fucking hate this little bastard. Why is he in this fucking movie?
He's Shaggy. He's like, is that the T-Rex? Like Zoink Scoop, it's a ghost!
And he fucking, when the baryonyx shows up, screams like a full-on fucking bitch. I don't know if it was trying to be funny, but I just, oh, it was so cringy. And he goes through the whole, he's such a fucking panty waste. This is another thing that this movie has in common with Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell. He's Dr. Ferretzi. He's a complete pansy ass pussy the entire movie.
Then why are you here?
Yeah, that's, if you're such a fucking panty waste, why the fuck are you here?
All right,
Please
because you're the
leave.
only one who could crack the code in the computer thing.
They should have gotten somebody else. They should have brought, I mean, I would have much rather have dealt with the Jurassic Park shirt dude from the first movie coming back.
No! Lex Murphy! She's a hacker!
Oh, there's a missed opportunity.
You dumbass! You dickhead! You dumbasses!
But thankfully, especially in the second half of the movie, Franklin is not on screen very much, but every second that Franklin is on screen, I want to reach through the TV and slit his throat. I fucking hate this little bastard. Hate him.
You know what it is when you say I hate Franklin? I'm like, oh my god, Nick, you're turning into Beaver from the Franklin cartoon.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The
thing that really annoyed me the most is his constant obsession with, oh my god, it's the T-Rex. It's the T-Rex. It's the T-Rex. It's the T-Rex. Shut up, dude. God damn. I fucking hate Franklin. He is the biggest thing that annoys me on screen throughout this movie. I fucking hate his hate him. He's almost as annoying as Josh from Godzilla vs. Kong to me.
Who's Josh again?
The fat guy, Fire Fist from Deadpool 2.
Oh, the Hayes. Josh Hayes. That's the guy, right? I call him Hayes.
I call him Josh.
Ah.
Your first con?
Con number 1, and I agree with Nick. The new characters suck.
I like Zia, actually.
I am indifferent. I think she is a total feminazi.
Nah. She's not like because
SJW.
No, nuh-uh. She is just a paleo veterinarian who's trying to, she's a bit of a nerd when it comes to seeing dinosaurs in person, but I really like that when she's tasked with saving Blue, she's all assholes and elbows. She's like, get me T-Rex blood. Hold dinosaur down so that I can extract the bullet. And she's talking shit, clashing with the other characters who are treating her like total shit, saying, nah, I'm not going to help you do this. Nah, I'm not going to help you do that, because she doesn't support what they're doing. I don't mind that whatsoever. And she's also the first one to pull a gun on Wheatley saying, hey, you shoot me, this animal dies.
And you lose your money.
Yeah, huh?
I will backtrack. I watching it again. I'm like, okay, you know what? At first, I was thinking, oh god, here comes the girl boss. But this is an element where, you know what? It's a girl boss done right.
Yeah, and she doesn't clash with the other main characters. Like, she's not a bitch towards Owen. She's not a bitch towards Franklin. She's only a bitch towards the asshole villains.
And the asshole villain says, nasty woman.
Because he's an asshole.
Yeah, but
so that's to be expected. That's fine.
We know what they're aiming for, which we will not talk about. But to my point, most of the characters, not all of them, but most of the new characters suck. Franklin sucks. The villains suck. The villains suck. They are generic, cliche. They you know what they remind me of? They're villains you would see in a 2000s Disney movie. The Claytons, the Atlantis the Lost Empire villains. They are all of that. Like the Hunter, Buffalo Bill is a combination of Clayton from Tarzan and James Garner's villain character. I can't remember what his name from Atlantis the Lost Empire. He is those type of baddies. We have the evil rich business guys, which we had in Lost World, and that was kind of better. There is something I realize with the structure of this. What should have been the driving villain force in these 3 films, I'd say you should have replaced Hoskins and the villains in this with one villain, Lewis Doxon. If he had shown up in 4 and been the primary villain, there would have been more engagement with this trilogy. But it's just every movie, there's like, it's always like different villains. Now, according to what I'm hearing, I looked into the research of this recently, and one of the ideas was like, with Colin Trevorrow, where there was supposed to be a symbolism here of like some stuff where he said, it's almost like InGen, this is a quote from Colin Trevorrow himself, it's almost like InGen is Apple. But what if PC got their hands on it? What if there were 15 different entities around the world that could make dinosaurs? Now, granted, I don't mind that idea because it is reflecting the consequences of what John Hammond made, that now the consequences are you've opened up Pandora's box with this technology, and now everybody's starting to make it. Everybody's starting to get it, and now it's causing problems. And now I wouldn't have minded that. And it's just
another arms race.
Yeah, it's a genetic arms race, really. And that would have actually been interesting, but again, they pulled it back. And I mean, even down to like the auctioneers, like, yeah, of course there's the Russian one. Of course there's the North Korean one. Like, of course these world organization, like, these
the Chinese one.
Yeah, of course the Axis powers want to make dinosaur weapons again. And again, it's the thing in the last movie. Stop turning these into dino riders. Stop putting guns on these where like they're riding in going stupid. Make a different franchise of that. Make a Dino Riders movie. But yeah, the villains suck. Most of the new characters suck. They suck, dino dick. Awful.
This will lead me into my second con, is like the 2011 Thing prequel, funny that's also a Universal movie, there's a lot of unlikable characters in this movie in terms of the villains. Buffalo Bill as Wheatley, yeah, he is a meaner version of Clayton from Tarzan. I forgot about this, but when he ripped out that tooth from the Stegosaurus, oh, that pissed me off. I wanted to reach through the TV and stab him in the throat with this. I was like, oh, you're a fucking piece of shit. To a Stegosaurus, not harmless, but like a stegosaur, an herbivore. Why would you do that?
The plate, I get. The tooth, why?
And the what were these guys' names? Hold up.
Was it the oh shit. I had one thought too about this guy.
Eli Mills and what's the Mr. Eversole. These two are just, they feel like villains either out of Captain Planet or any kind of evil business tycoon characters from any generic action movie from the last 20 years. All they care about is money. They don't care.
It's another Steve Jobs. And listen, Steve Jobs, say what you want about the companies, but Steve Jobs was a nice guy. Stop trying to, like, if you're going to villainize anybody, villainize Bill Gates. Stop making, why do they all have black turtlenecks? We get it. We get it. They're Steve Jobs. But why don't you villainize Bill Gates? I hate him more than Steve Jobs.
Now, Mr. Eversole, I don't necessarily mind him nearly as much because, A, he's not on screen as much, but I also like that actor. It's the guy who played Ollie in 2007's The Mist, so he is a good actor. But the problem is that his character, he's just a mustache-twirling evil business tycoon. And the same goes for Eli Mills. He's just a mustache-twirling evil business tycoon. But I dislike him more because he has a face that I want to punch. He's just greedy. Like, oh my God, I can't see what's going on because I have dollar signs in my eyes.
I'm sorry, Carl, I can't hear. Oh, you know what? He's one of the heads of Hydra from Captain America. The auctioneer?
Oh, yep, I remember him. Yep.
Yeah, he's working. So what? He's selling the dinosaurs to Hydra. I mean, Star-Lord's here too.
I could probably
trying to stop Hydra.
I could probably see Hydra doing something like that, but yeah, the villains.
That's cool.
The villains all suck. They're just nothing but generic, scenery-chewing, mustache-twirling, money-hungry, greedy asshole bad guys, and they're so generic. They stick out like a sore thumb. And, kind of like with zombie movies, when it comes to Jurassic Park, I don't fucking care about human conflict. The villains should be the dinosaurs. The Indoraptor should have been more the main focus. The Indominus Rex is a great main focus, and look how that movie turned out. And spoiler for Dominion, the Giganotosaurus should have been the main villain. The Spinosaurus is a great main villain for Jurassic Park 3. The villains should be fucking dinosaurs. Why do they insist on shoving in the human element to make that the main threat? I don't fucking care.
Well, again, it depends on how the structure of the film is and if you love to hate the villain. Okay, look at Kong, how I did Carl Denham, and how everybody hated that fucker, and when he dies, you're like, yeah! Fuck that guy!
Now, granted, Eli also does have a good kill where he's torn apart by Rexy and the Carnotaurus, but A, it's over and done with pretty quickly. Actually, no, that's the main problem. It's over and done with so quickly. I actually think the Indoraptor should have been the one to kill him off. That would have been way more satisfying. But at least Mr. Eversole gets killed by the Indoraptor, so that's cool. But yeah, the villains all suck. I have to agree.
I think I'm con number 2 for
me. Yes.
Well, actually, that brings it up with Eli's death with the T-Rex and the T-Rex roaring. That animation looks kind of similar to the first one. And that brings me to con number 2. There appears to be kind of a lack of vision, a lack of what is the point of this movie, because of the behind the scenes creative control whiplash. I accept this also the same thing with Dominion. This movie struggles to sort of find an identity of where it stands in the franchise. There are times it wants to expand the lore, but is held back. There are times it wants to do new creative things and push it to the next level, which it's sort of held back. There are moments it wants to be a horror film, but it's held back. There's times it wants to be the nostalgia trip with the animation references on the dinosaurs, with the Ford Explorer, with the picture of John Hammond that looks horribly photoshopped. It feels very held back. And something I brought this up in my live stream yesterday. There's one character that I feel, again, is extremely held back, is Lockwood. This character just comes out of nowhere. We've never heard of him before. We've never seen him before in the previous films. And he's as Mahler always said, he's a discount John Hammond because Richard Attenborough's dead and we need a John Hammond. Now that would have been fun. One shot I actually do like, but like the way it's structured and set up is horrible, is when the amber cane smashes. I actually don't mind that because it symbolizes the end of it being a theme park, and now we're in a world of chaos. Like, I get the ideas, but like, I think what would have benefited this movie, or at least like one of these entries, and it's something that I'm thinking maybe Rebirth will do, is one of the good elements I like about Halloween Kills. I like the flashbacks in Halloween Kills and how they presented things like Dr. Loomis. Now, ironic, one of the characters in Rebirth is named Dr. Loomis, right? Now, the thing is that I think it would be interesting if you want to kind of fix this character, have one of the new entries, let's see a flashback with him and Hammond. Let's see that friendship fall apart. Like, I know you don't like most of the human character conflicts, but there is some stuff there that would be interesting. But again, this movie lacks a vision. It is lacking any sense of what it wants to be because it's being in a tug of war left and right over creative control, not just of this movie, but the overall structure of this trilogy, because it also is being tugged by somebody in control of another franchise. So,
con number 2 for me, the destruction of Isla Nublar is kind of hard to watch, and it's kind of mean-spirited. Watching all the dinosaurs plummet off the cliff and then drowning is a very hard scene to watch. But the thing that it didn't really affect me the first time I saw this, but what got me recently was the Brachiosaur's death. I didn't cry.
I cried.
It bothered me, though, because as Jackie Boy has told me, apparently that is supposed to be the original Brachiosaurus that we see in the original Jurassic Park. And it's when it's running on the dock and bellowing after the ship, it really feels like the Brachiosaur is saying, "Wait, you forgot me." And then as it's enveloped in the pyroclastic flow and it rears up on its hind legs, and in a scene that looks kind of like it. It's funny you mentioned
it's recycling the animation from the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also just sad. Like, this poor innocent 50-ton dinosaur is just being swallowed up by a volcano, and it's sad. And yeah, the destruction of this island. Okay, so I see that this is weird. I've complained before in movies like Son of Kong and other like monster movies. I don't like end of the movie natural disasters. To me, they're very formulaic, they're very lazy, and they're very derivative and played out. Like, it's such an easy end of the movie reset button. Like, everything that's happened in a film, if you have like an earthquake or a volcano erupt, it's such an easy wipe away all the evidence, nothing ever happened. It's the reason why I also don't really like nuclear explosions for endings. So the ending to the original Jurassic Park novel, not a fan of that, where the island gets nuked. Wipe away all the evidence, nothing ever happened.
But what if it created Godzilla?
That's a little different, but so I appreciate that they didn't save that for the ending of this movie, because that also would have been still very mean-spirited. But it's weird because I actually kind of do wish that's what they would have done, because that leads into another issue that I have with this movie. But yeah, the destruction of Isla Nublar, it's very mean-spirited and kind of hard to watch.
I mean,
it's a well-directed action sequence, and the effects on it are spectacular, and it is an entertaining chase scene. But watching all these innocent dinosaurs die, it's sad and hard to watch.
Actually watched there's a re-edit on YouTube of the chase scene, but it splices in the stampede music from The Lion King. Surprisingly effective. I will say the Brachiosaurus death scene is actually probably one of the very one moment where I cried at a Jurassic Park movie, and it's mainly because the music works, the sound of the Brachiosaurus screaming for help. It does ring a little bit of a plot hole, though. Now, it's hit or miss, because for one thing, aren't Brachiosauruses or most sauropods, can they technically swim? Because they're so big, couldn't they like put their heads out? But also,
No, because it's so heavy.
But also, you got to remember, this thing is probably afraid of the water, even if it tried, because of the mosasaur. Could probably try to kill him. So
I think the Brachiosaur would have been too large for a fully grown mosasaur to attack.
Yeah, so the thing is, what's weird is it's also a matter of, like, you look at the structure of the island. Apparently, they have said that part of the island actually did stay intact. Because, it was still active from the volcano and hard to breathe, but there was some spots it was, like, okay, but it's just, like, it's smaller now. But anyway, con number 3 for me, and it's something you said is more of, like, a nitpick, but I have a bit of an issue with it. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum was wasted in this movie.
I'll be right back. I gotta pee.
Yeah, he began in bookend film, and on top of that, the fact that there's some things that you could have done with this character that would have made it better. For one thing, I think interacting with the cast early on would have been interesting. At least interacting with Claire would have been something cool to bridge the gap. But also, that court scene, given the fact that you could tell a lot was cut, I feel like that court scene was meant to be a lot longer than originally edited, because there are evidence of this where you have Jeff Goldblum, Ian Malcolm, walking up to the stand, pulls on his glasses, and he, says a very Ian Malcolm line where he's like, well, here I am talking about dinosaurs again. Yes. I saw that in the behind the scenes, I'm thinking, well, how much was cut? Now, given the fact that, Malcolm is advocating for these animals to die, you'd think one of the people in the courts, one of the judges, would be like, Dr. Malcolm, what about, I feel like this would have been a good time to sort of mirror the scene in Jurassic Park 3, where Alan Grant is talking to making the presentation, and they're like, well, does anybody have any questions? And everybody raises their hand, and he's like, does anyone have a question that does not relate to Jurassic Park? And half come down. Or the incident in San Diego, which I did not witness. A good callback to that scene would be, this time there are questions answered, not just related to Jurassic Park, but also the incident in San Diego, which Malcolm did witness. In fact, he was there. And it's something that the film breezes over. They easily cut a lot of stuff out. There is something missing with Jeff Goldblum, and it is a shame that the only real reason he was brought in was to market the movie. Because while he is there and then bookends the film, he had more to say in the marketing of the movie. If you've seen all the promotions where he's like, hello, everybody, it's Jeff Goldblum, and I'm so glad to be back to be playing Dr. Ian Malcolm. Buy tickets because I'm in the movie.
I think another reason he was brought in too is because the year before he was in Thor Ragnarok, and everyone realized, hey, Jeff Goldblum's back in movies.
I missed you. Movies. We missed you, buddy.
I mean, it's cool. It's just a shame that he wasn't used very well.
And then he did Independence Day 2, and it sucked.
That was 2016.
That's the thing. So it was Thor and Independence Day. They're like, hey, Jeff Goldblum, we missed you, buddy. What were you doing? I was on Tim and Eric. What the fuck is Tim and Eric? He was on Adult Swim a little bit. He was like, you know what? It's funny, his character, he was called Chef Goldblum.
Yeah, I know. I've seen Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie.
That's a funny movie. Anyway, to the point, he was wasted. He was very much wasted. It is, I can't even, it's hard to find. Can you ever think of an actor who was a very popular character in a franchise that is brought into a later installment only to be just completely wasted? I'd argue, you know what? Example, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween Resurrection. Wasted. That is another example. I don't like that in movies. Stop wasting good characters. Thankfully, I will say there is a redeeming to this, because while he had more to do in Dominion, he was one of the better parts of the movie. Ian Malcolm's fully back in there. This was more of a test. I feel like this was more of an algorithm test to see what audiences want to see the old cast back, and on top of that, interact with the new cast. And if it was a test, to quote Ghostbusters, well, $2 billion, successful test.
To quickly answer your question, too, about a wasted good actor coming back for a later installment, Eddie Furlong as John Connor in Terminator Dark Fate. Moving on.
Ow!
Con number 3. This movie's rushed.
Yep.
It's mostly in the second act, or the first half. The second part of the movie is when the pacing slows down in a good way, in my opinion, because the movie, it's not slow, but it does take its time. But when they're on the island, oh my God, it is just flying by at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's like The Rise of Skywalker condensed in half an hour. It is. They show up at the island 25 minutes in, and then they get to Lockwood Estate, I think at like the hour and 5 or maybe hour and 10-minute mark.
50-minute.
Oh, it's the 50-minute mark? Okay, so yeah, it's literally 25-minute a sequence. It's like The Rise of Skywalker condensed into 25 minutes. Like, they set up base in the snap of a finger. They find Blue's location transmitter in the snap of a finger. Owen goes out and finds Blue in the snap of a finger. He's turned on by the mercenaries in the snap of a finger. And then the volcano explodes and destroys the island in the snap of a finger. This whole sequence. And I know. It's very rushed. And it drives me insane, but it goes into a couple problems that I have with this movie. And actually, a lot of my problems with this movie kind of all have to do with the same thing. So bear with me as I talk about them. But yeah, this movie is rushed like nobody's business. But the big question I have is, why was this rushed? You have $400 million to work with here. Why the hell are you going at Mach 10? Take your time. Make a longer movie. This movie already... okay, fuck it, I'm just going to call it. It's the anti-Jurassic Park movie. Fuck it.
Yep, you can't
That's
hold
another
back.
way that you could have done something different. Give us a 3-hour-long Jurassic Park movie, for Christ's sake. Please.
You know, this is where Dominion has it over this, because give them credit, despite that problems with that movie, they at least knew that there was more to tell, that with the DVD and Blu-ray, they said, you know what, extended cut. Just put, there's stuff we want to keep, but the studio, for some reason, will not let us have it. Fuck it, we're making an extended edition. How the fuck did this one not, out of all of them, get an extended edition? Because there is so much I have been told and confirmed from people who worked on the movies that was cut.
We'll talk about that. Your next con?
Oh God. Okay. Con number 4, I think.
Maybe 5.
5. I can't remember. The dinosaurs are props. They are not the main characters. They're not the side characters. At times, they're not even the main story. They are background noise. They are props. And it is something that the last 2 films, like this one in Dominion, just did, and it infuriates me that they are
another
not
problem
focused.
that this movie has in common with Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell, more so with the ass blasters. They're just plot devices in that film. Same problem here, too. The dinosaurs are either props or plot devices.
And they're not even showing any signs of being lethal or making an impact. They are the equivalent of hopping over barrels in a video game. They're not even like a threat. They're an obstacle course. They're an easy obstacle course. The characters could easily just see a dinosaur, and half the movie is this. They're not even like a threat to them. They're not even a boss. Nothing. They are a video game sprite. So they just don't leave much in, and that's why there's so many dinosaurs, because they're just video game sprites. Just hop over them. If this was a 2D side-scroller game, they would be the equivalent of the enemies you'd have in a Super Mario Brothers game. It's that level. Down to like Blue being your Yoshi. She's just a blue Yoshi.
Actually, no, because this is Jurassic Park themed. If this movie was a 2D side-scroller, it would be that Jurassic Park / Contra game on, I think, the Sega Genesis.
Well, I mean, this movie actually kind of adapts the arcade game, the original 94 Sega Jurassic Park arcade game, which I love. Love that game to death. But it feels like that. It's an adaptation of that. Like, literally, get the dinosaurs off the volcano. But, yeah, it's just their props. You don't give them enough time to leave an impact. That's the biggest crime of it. You don't give us a chance to like appreciate the animal in front of us because you're just shoehorning as much as you can. In fact, this is the scary part. Well, Dominion had a great premise, Planet of the Dinosaurs. There was more dinosaur screen time here than in Dominion. There was a bit more of an impact where the dinosaurs are nothing in Dominion. Here, they're like, at least it's something. But again, it's too much for something that should have been a lot bigger. So a lot of people complain that in Jurassic Park 3, the dinosaurs were props, but no, at least they left an impact. They came and went, but they left an impact. Here, they all look like white noise. They're all like a noise you see on a film, grain. You can't even appreciate them. And I get it's the other thing is too, some of the redesigns on some of the old creatures are a little bit off for me, and I didn't bring this up in World. I'm not a fan of the T-Rex, how it looks in the last 3 films. I think she's too thin. I think there's something missing from the original Stan Winston design. Maybe it's with the CG model, but even with the T-Rex animatronic, I could tell this is a totally different creature. This is not the same Rex we saw in the first movie. I get she's old and stuff, and maybe she did get some work done. I don't fucking know what dinosaur plastic surgery is like. But to the point, I mean, like, they're plastic anyway. I mean, technically, we're using fossil fuels to make, like, plastic dinosaurs, so maybe there is plastic surgery involved. They all look like Pamela Anderson. But to the point, yeah, these creatures are just background noise. They don't leave an impact. I think for me, the biggest thing is the T-Rex. She just comes and goes. Literally, half her screen time is, hi, I'm the T-Rex, bye. Hi, I'm the T-Rex, bye. Hi, I'm the T-Rex, bye. Hi, I'm the motherfucking T-Rex. Remember me? I was in the first one, bye. Hi, I'm doing the roar for the first one, roar, bye. She comes and goes, and it's like, stop, stay, be important. You used to be important, bitch. Also, where's all the spitters? Where's all the stuff in the Forbidden Zone? Where's all that shit? Where's the dinosaurs we want to see?
Con number 5 for me. This movie has Sinister 2 syndrome. The first half, dealing with the destruction of Isla Nublar, is its own movie. And the dinosaur stuff mixed with a haunted house movie at the Lockwood Estate is its own movie. And they literally try to crash these two together, and they don't mix. It's very jarring when we go from Isla Nublar and the abandoned Jurassic World Park, and then to an isolated giant mansion and estate in the middle of the Northern California mountains. Where's this coming from?
It's like a double feature. Actually,
what they should have done, they should have transferred all the dinosaurs to Isla Sorna. Mm-hmm. Especially since they do have a couple, you know what? Maybe they should have just, like the island that we see that could be turned into the island sanctuary. They should have just said that's Isla Sorna. all the dinosaurs that were left over on Nublar when the park was abandoned, they should have just said, okay, we're going to take them and just put them back on Isla Sorna. Because Lockwood himself says it's just like what Hammond says. The dinosaurs do not need our assistance to thrive. They need our absence to thrive.
Now,
so with that incorporation of references to the Lost World, yeah, they should have just brought him to Isla. That way it wouldn't have felt so jarring going from a tropical island to the California mountains. Instead, we could have gone to more familiar terrain, and then we could have gotten into more of the nostalgia bait stuff for fans of the Lost World. And especially since when they return to Isla Nublar, it kind of is a super abridged homage / retelling of the Lost World. Even more so, they should have done even more of that by just taking the dinosaurs to Isla Sorna. Fuck it.
There is an explanation for that, according to the marketing and the websites, is that apparently the reason why we don't go back to Sorna is because not only was Sorna abandoned, it was cleared. It was cleaned up. When they built Jurassic World, all the dinosaurs on Sorna were shipped over to Nublar. That is the explanation, apparently.
But then again, so if you have an empty island that was previously inhabited by dinosaurs, why not re-inhabit with dinosaurs? They already proved that it is a working ecosystem for dinosaurs to thrive in. Just bring them back to where they were originally. Why not?
Simple, because the start of the film said the government will not support anything with the dinosaurs. Let the fuckers die.
Who says they need government assistance? Why not? Lockwood.
The United Nations do. The Costa Rican government is even like, no, fuck, let these fuckers die. But no.
Well, Lockwood is a multi-billionaire. Why can't he just hire his own private security for Isla
How funny if in that court scene with Jeff Goldblum, all of a sudden you realize Mr. Arnold from the first one survived the raptor attack, and he's in a wheelchair with one arm and one leg, and he's like, what's your statement, Arnold? I used to work in that motherfucking park, and I say they died. I hope they burned in hell.
Your con number 5, I think, or your next con.
All right, this is where I'm gonna drop the ball now. A lot was caught, a lot of stuff was cut, and a lot of stuff was reshot, and that's probably why the budget's so high.
Yeah, that's my next con too, is that now I don't really know for sure what was cut, but I've heard so much shit. So my next con number 6, there's too much cut footage. It feels like an entire hour's worth of footage was just yanked out of this movie.
This felt like they were going to film 2 movies back to back. Maybe part of the Dominion story was part of this. They were going to film 2 movies back to back, like the Pirates trilogy. But then at some point, somebody said, why don't you just take some of those elements that you were going to film for 2 and make it 1 movie? I felt like
also kind of like Alien Covenant, funny enough.
What's funny is you bring up that this is like, it's 2 plots. Funny, the same thing just happened with Snow White recently. The original film story and then Rebellion Against the Queen's story tried to mesh into 1. No, just make it 2 fucking movies. Just make it 2 movies. If anything, make this like, I don't know, Jurassic Park Grindhouse double feature. Here's
or like Halloween Ends.
Yeah, here's plot number 1. Here's plot number 2. And make them 2 movies. I think actually, how cool would it be to split this up in between months? Fallen Kingdom Part 1. All of it's on the island. Ends with them leaving the island, cut to black. See you in 6 months. 6 months later, do the haunted house story. Fallen Kingdom Part 2. There's just something that you could have done here. And that's mainly because, apparently from what I've been told, that the whole raid on Nublar was not meant to be done in that whole day. It was meant to be a couple of days. They were going to be camping out at this place. It was going to go full-on Lost World, where they were going to be there for like 2 or 3 days. And They didn't do that. They just said, fuck it, we're going to just cram it all into one thing. There was a lot cut. There were scenes where apparently Owen, we saw more of his trek through the jungle to find Blue. How did he find her so quickly? That took a couple hours. We see him, there were apparently a lot of props built of corpses of dinosaurs that were, like, there was a whole Stegosaurus corpse. I think a nod to the original King Kong when they walked by the Stegosaur, but there was going to be a whole corpse. And from what I heard, when Owen goes to where the fort is, that was part of the Forbidden Zone in the original Jurassic World that they said, we're going to build a park outside where the original park was. And the rumor was the original scene was he was going to encounter a pack of spitters, the wild Dilophosaurus's, and then Blue was going to spook them off. It wasn't going to be the compies, it was going to be spitters. Why they cut that out? Why do you deprive us of spitters? I have no fucking idea. There's just a lot that was cut. And the biggest one, the one that they confirmed, and every fan was royally pissed off. The original scene where the Carnosaurus encounters the group, and then the T-Rex comes down and fights it, that was supposed to be the Spinosaurus from part 3. There is concept art of this. There was, and actually, they were originally, they were going to have a rematch between her and Rexy, and Rexy was going to kill the Spinosaurus at last, pleasing the fans after 20 years. Now, when they removed that scene, they were originally going to have the Spinosaurus, like, where that shot of the Allosaurus through the plains, and it, like, sees them and then gets hit by the meteor. Granted, that would have been a bitch move, but at least we got to see the Spinosaurus in action. But again, it was removed. I don't know why. Now with Rebirth, we get the Spinosaurus, but it's 3, and they're 3 different variants. They're different versions of the same species. Why do you deprive us of the original monster that was meant to be the biggest threat to the Jack Horner said in part 3, we wanted a dinosaur that could literally cause an extinction on the island. Why do you deprive us of this creature? I don't understand. Well, that's because they were just they and on top of that, it didn't work right. Like, they ran out of ideas. But, like, that thing is, even in Camp Cretaceous, that thing is still alive. Why aren't you doing anything with this? I don't understand it. I don't get it. And it's the same thing with Dominion. I would have much rather preferred, instead of the Thesaurus with the claws, make it the Spinosaurus. Go Transformers 3, where it comes in and saves the Rex, and then the Rex and the Spino have their couple. But anyway, yeah, there is stuff that was cut, and the biggest one I'm gonna save for my last con.
So I don't really have much to add. Like, all this that I'm hearing from Jackie Boy is new to me. But yeah, it is a huge shame that so much footage was cut. Like, especially, I've said before, I'm a big advocate for, if you shoot it, if you complete it, use it. You spent over $400 million on this movie. Use what you paid a lot of money for. Maybe they should have done an extended version of this movie. What the fuck? Why not? And because this is the second longest Jurassic Park movie of the whole series, still, it's 2 hours and 8 minutes. Why not make it longer? This already is the anti-Jurassic Park movie. Fuck it. And I just don't really get why it's the island stuff really that feels so rushed and cut down. Like, yeah, this should have taken place over the course of a few days, because then once Owen, Franklin, and Claire jump off the cliff and escape that gyrosphere, then they're washed up on that beach, and then where the hell is this ship that's loading up all the dinosaurs? Like, where the hell did this come from? This did not feel like how they got aboard Isla Sorna. It feels like they boarded it via helicopter. But where the hell did this beach come from? Where did this ship come from? It's jarring as fuck. And it's something that they could have showed. They could have, like, just showed in a shot or two to establish it beforehand. Like, this is how they get to the island. This is how they're carrying all this equipment. This is how they're transporting all the dinosaurs. But then it just pops up out of nowhere. And again, kind of feels like they're ripping off scenes from The Lost World. And it's very jarring as a result.
4 hours. This is a $400 million budget. $100 million an hour.
Yeah, that's what they should have done, honestly. I would watch a 4-hour-long Jurassic Park movie. Fuck it. If I can sit through a 4-hour-long Justice League movie, I can sit through anything. But yeah, it is a real big shame that so much footage was cut, not just because it just feels like a waste of money, but yeah, with this movie, or like with this being during the Hollywood Renaissance where they're doing so much nostalgia bait stuff, why not feed more into that? Jurassic World pleased fans of the first Jurassic Park. Now with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, reference the rest of the Jurassic Park franchise. Reference Jurassic Park 3. Reference The Lost World. Maybe throw in a couple nods to the novels. That's what they're doing with the Carnotaurus. Why the fuck not? But that leads into my biggest problem with this movie. But yeah, it is such a shame that so much was cut. And then it's in the second half of the movie where the obvious reshoot problems really surface. When it's revealed that Maisie was a clone of Lockwood's daughter, to me, the biggest giveaway that is a reshoot scene is when they cut to Claire's face when Eli says he created another. You can obviously tell that was an ADR redone line because the tone of voice when the camera is facing Eli, his voice is kind of like echoey and a little raspy, like they're in a concrete echoey area. But then when the camera focuses on Claire, it sounds like James Rolfe's voice for whenever he's narrating movie or game footage. It sounds like a voiceover. It sounds like a microphone recording. And it sticks out like a sore thumb.
ADR nowadays has actually been so last minute things for a lot of movies. Like, I heard rumors that Rise of Skywalker, they were going to the last minute, like days before the premiere, and poor Adam Driver was called up by the heads of the studio to say, we need a line. Can you do it right now in your closet on your phone? And Adam's like, fuck, fine, okay. And he had to record it on his phone and send it to the studio. That's how desperate they were. How quick and rushed it was. How, like, they were changing things constantly. And and again, they could tell here, I agree with you, that scene was reshot, because if you look at the trailer, now granted, trailers, I'll give them credit. Trailers actually will use special effects to hide major surprises. Look at the No Way Home trailer, how they hid the other two Spider-Men from the trailers, from specific shots where they're there, digitally remove them. You could argue that with maybe this trailer. But there's something about the trailer in the original scene that didn't feel like special effects, like digitally removed stuff. That felt like the original scene where they see a security guard in that hallway, and Owen's like, you need to get us out of here. And the security guard's like, yep. And then interrupt, blah! Right? There was no Eli. There was no other guard. It was like just that one guy. So you're thinking, what happened here? What is going on? Why does this look like this was reshot? And especially the shots of Eli and the guards looks like it was shot on green screen. It doesn't feel like the original. It looks like green screen. So yeah, what happened
I have to
here?
Agree.
Now, I think I was on my second last con, because I think we both have the same last con, but my second last. This film is an anti-Jurassic movie, not just in the fact that it doesn't feel like it, it feels like it is utterly destroying everything from the first movie to say, we are no longer going back there. And actually, that was the intention of the filmmakers, the destruction of Sorna, and they say in the interviews, we are blowing up the island, we're never going back. We are never going back. This is it. And it feels like that not just in the island, but the symbolic nature of the franchise. This is no longer... Now, granted, I get the idea. This is no longer a park. This is a world. I get the symbolism, I get the thematic element, but at the same time, why destroy, literally and figuratively, what was amazing? And on top of that, the biggest, and another reason why it doesn't feel Jurassic, this is a big fat cartoon. There are some of the moments of action, I'm not going to lie, are unrealistic as fuck. Owen, okay, first of all, the Buffalo Bill shooting Owen with a trank that's meant for a dinosaur. That would kill you. That's dead. Dead.
Or at least knock his ass out long enough to where the point where if he was to wake up by the time the lava was flowing towards him, he still wouldn't be able to move.
But still, it's not like you're shot in the ass. It's not like you're shot in the leg. You're shot in the chest where your heart is. Even if it didn't hit your heart, that tranquilizer could probably do some damage to your internal fucking breathing mechanisms. You could die from that. On top of that, Owen numbing away like from the lava. First of all, it's a Looney Tunes cartoon. He's like stroke, like Peter Griffin with a stroke. This is no. I'm sorry. This is stupid and silly. But on top of that, lava that close, I'm sorry. That's gonna burn you. I have been on the Jaws ride, and when that fire happens, that's propane fire. That's not even hot magma. That is propane fire, and I felt my eyebrows were fucking crispy. It was that hot. So don't tell me that Owen can easily sneak away from freaking lava. Like, you know what? Fuck. I remember, know how unrealistic this is? When Rugrats tells you that this is unrealistic, where they have like the freaking lava in the Reptar episode, it's like, one of us could put on this fire protection suit and see if we can walk through the lava without burning it up. Guy roasting like charred marshmallows. Sure, I'll do it. It's a big cartoon. On top of that, how quickly Owen got out of that trank is ridiculous. And then running from the ash vault of a volcano, and it consumes him. Dead. Not only are you breathing in just death, but it is so hot. Like, it's not just lava. Asphalt is as hot as lava. That is like a nuclear fucking bomb on you. You are dead. There are so many moments. I am like the nerd looking at the camera saying, you're fucking dead. And your friends too. Every time. And it's so unrealistic. It's a big, there are moments like, even in that fight at the end, it's like, how have none of these people suffering broken bones? From the sticky mollusk ramming, yeah. The concussion, brain damage, like brain trauma. It's like, this is the thing. It's just this is Jurassic Park the animated series, but like if it was made in the '90s cartoon, because they were going to actually do that at one point. They were going to do a '90s cartoon.
That would have been cool.
They didn't do that. But yeah, it's a cartoon. And I don't like that. This isn't Jurassic Park. This is We're Back, a Dinosaur Story.
My con number 7, Rexy and Blue are underused. It's mainly Rexy. Yeah, I have to agree. She's literally here just to walk on screen, roar and say hi, walk off screen. Walk on screen, roar and say hi, walk off screen. Walk on screen, kill the bad guy, roar and say hi, and then say bye.
It is the equivalent of a celebrity who is famous for like that one line, and he's at a convention. It's like me going to a convention.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Yes. It is like going to a convention, and I walk over, and there's a fan saying, "Can you say the line?" And I go over, I'm like, What's my most famous lines that you like, that you think was my most iconic lines, Nick? I don't know, the farting from a breathing tube line from the Kong video games episode with the gorilla going, right?
Or why do people think capturing giant monsters will always get them money? It always blows up in their face.
Yeah, that's like me having to say that to like every fan I come by at a Comic-Con. That's T-Rex. Literally like, it's like, oh, hello fans. Okay, selfie. Have a good day. It's like going to Universal Studios and getting a photo with Blue. It's just, it doesn't feel special anymore.
Speaking of which, I do think Blue is kind of underused because she is the main plot device. She's the one who causes the cyanide gas inadvertently. She's the one who kills off the Indoraptor, essentially. She's the one who reveals the twist that the mercenaries are all bad guy assholes. And she's the one who really gets the characters going, like trying to save her by using the T-Rex blood and all that stuff. She's a plot device. Now, granted, it's not nearly as bad because they do really expand on her bond with Owen, which is nice. But even outside that, she's still just a plot device. It's kind of disappointing.
She's a MacGuffin, a McMuffinsaurus.
How many cons you got left? I got one more.
I got one more. And I don't know if we're the same.
Mine is the studio meddling.
Mine is simple, and it might weave into yours. The Indoraptor and Maisie. Now,
no.
Not the characters. Not the characters themselves. They're actually good individually. But I'm talking about what I still believe to be the original twist that was cut. And hence why reshoots. It is under my theory because the way these two characters are sort of linked in how they're shot, how they're presented, how they act, something's missing. I am under the assumption that either Maisie and the Indoraptor are connected with sort of a psychic link, but more so genetically. I am under the assumption that the reason why the Indoraptor was originally going to follow human commands and why it was built this way, it's part human. I think that actually makes more sense for this creature to be like existing, not just being more deadly and more dangerous and threatening, but also pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable with genetic science. And because this ties into Maisie being a lab experiment, being like recreated, and is why Hammond left, I feel like there is something missing that it would have benefited from seeing a flashback between Hammond and Lockwood where, oh, I'll clone basically Lockwood would be like, you're okay with cloning dinosaurs, but you're not okay with cloning people, even though my daughter's dead and I'm grieving and I want her back. And Hammond's like, listen, we can play God, but we can't play that God.
I'm inclined to agree because if we were to be able to clone humans, I would not support that whatsoever because the world is already overly populated enough with humans. We don't need to make more. There's already a way that we can make more humans. It's called taking the peen in the vein and going.
Actually, on a technical term, there was a 60 Minutes interview. Actually, ironically, kind of coming up when this movie, before it came out, I remember seeing a 60 Minutes story about how a guy who does polo, the horse sport, his horse died. He was devastated, and he actually had the horse cloned. And what's crazy is the cloning was actually able to create the same genetics where the horse could play polo. And it was like, for some people in the game thinking, isn't that cheating using the same genes of a horse because it can play the same fucking game? It's like if the New York Yankees genetically cloned Babe Ruth and used him to constantly win the games, right? It was the equivalent of that. That's kind of cheating. But on top of that, then you had people, shady government guys in the trench coats come in and say, so you could do this. And apparently he was cloning them really fast. He says, so you could do this. Yes. Can you do that with people? And the guy said, yeah, probably. We'll give you a big stack of money if you can make us a clone, if you can help us for military application creating a clone army. And he's like, No, no, no. Do you know how stupid that would be? And here's what was the scary part. Apparently it was like, it doesn't matter. Pandora's box has been opened. Apparently there are governments that are trying to clone humans for military applications. So, to quote a green frog, begun. The Clone War has. But, anyway, sidetrack. Back to my point. My point being, it would not be unrealistic for this movie to take that step, on top of that being the next step in the genetic consequences of opening Pandora's box since the first one. Basically, if you saw Alien Romulus, that's kind of what I want to see happen to fucking what Maisie, I wanted Maisie to become. I was thinking she was going to be part raptor or part like dino, because the way she is presented, the way she kind of, remember that scene where like the maid is in the house and she's looking for Maisie, and there's like this feeling of, oh, is there a dinosaur in the house that's going to spook us? And it's Maisie. She has those tendencies. And on top of that, she's shot strange. There is something missing where you feel like she was meant to be some sort of hellspawn, and they cut it. That the Indoraptor was supposed to be part human, hence why it can follow human commands. It has the brain capacity of a human. It can understand human language. On top of that, the fact that if you notice the Indoraptors, when it's targeting this group, it's specifically targeting Maisie. Specifically, always going for her. And I always feel like there's a sense in that moment where it's at her bed and the hand's creeping in. It's not a matter of, I'm going to get you, I'm going to eat you. I feel like there is some sort of psychological link where she's like, come with me. We are sisters, you and I. Like, it feels like that's the feeling I got with this, that, you know, it's not reaching out to its mother, it's reaching out to its sister, its sibling. And I don't know, there's just something that you feel like that was originally there. And then halfway through production, the heads at Universal said, okay, who fucked the raptor? What? Who had sex with the raptor and made Maisie or the Indoraptor be part human? That's not how it works. Yeah, we're gonna have to ask you to remove all this shit because we've got enough people shipping Owen and Blue together and it's fucking gross. These are made to sell this shit. We're made to sell toys, not dino porn. Save that for Wood Rocket Productions and their Jurassic porn parodies. But yeah, the point is, it's just there is something that was missing, and I feel like not only was that reveal a green screen reshoot, but the whole thing with the laser pointer like a house cat, that felt like a reshoot. That was where I felt the reshoots happened. They basically removed the twist because maybe the twist was. It's interesting because apparently it reminds me of the second Planet of the Apes film, Beneath, where in an original test run, they were originally going to think of this idea of potentially in the future, there were going to be hybrid ape-human children. There was going to be a human-ape hybrid child because I guess Taylor got horny for Zero or whatever. I don't fucking know. But apparently the studio said, no, don't. They did tests of this. They actually did makeup tests, and Fox removed it because they said, this would take away our family-friendly audience. I feel like, which is weird, because I actually find now with Jurassic Park, the franchise, it does feel like the Planet of the Apes movies, where they are not only constantly making more of them and continuing the story, but they are always aiming for the family-friendly audience. And it's a problem for me because the original source material was not a family-friendly movie. If anything, it was the anti-Walt Disney World. It was the anti-Disneyland. So why are you making it Disneyland? Like, why do you want the pirates to actually eat the tourists? Again, that is my biggest issue is Maisie and the Indoraptor. There was something there that was removed in post-production, and it shows. It shows there's something missing. Yeah.
So in a very similar manner to The Predator 2018 and Phantasm 2, funny, another Universal movie, the studio meddling is the biggest issue that I have with this movie, and I think it's the biggest reason why this movie suffers. Because this movie had a lot of potential to do a lot of new things for the Jurassic Park franchise, not just for the Jurassic Park franchise, but just for science fiction in general. There was a lot of ideas that the filmmakers wanted to do. And there's a lot of concepts that the filmmakers wanted to explore. But every step of the way, the studio was stepping in and saying, nope, can't do this, can't do that, can't do that, can't do this, can't do this, can't do that. And it's all in the wish to make money. And that really does not sit well with me. You could have had a fantastic movie with this. Like I like the Predator 2018, but had the studio not chopped that movie to hell, it will always be as flawed of a film as it is. Phantasm 2. Phantasm fans love Phantasm 2. But for me, knowing how much the studio interfered with so many decisions that Don Coscarelli wanted to do with Phantasm 2, it always will feel like Diet Phantasm to me. Army of Darkness also has a lot of studio interference, and that's the biggest reason why it's my least favorite Evil Dead movie. Funny, that's also another Universal movie. Whenever studios step in to make things better, quote unquote, it's never to make things better. It's always to shape things to suit the studio better. And in this case, especially, with Jack is right in the Universal just wants to keep Jurassic Park in the family friendly zone, when the source material very much so is not family friendly. It's a very R-rated concept. And surely I'm not the only one to think this. There are thousands of Jurassic Park fans who want to see an R-rated Jurassic Park film. I personally would love to see the It 2017 treatment done to Jurassic Park. Take the first two novels, make two-part adaptations of each book, and make them hard R-rated as fuck. I would love to see that. But Universal is never going to do that because, especially with this movie, this is when it was very clear, yeah, they want to sell toys.
And especially with new deals from Mattel, because Hasbro fucked up the first world so bad with the toys.
Yeah, I remember that was the main form of marketing that I saw for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Tap, tap, when you do the chomp, chomp, when you hear the echo. I remember seeing that toy commercial all over YouTube when this movie was coming out. Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the studio meddling, it really hurts this movie because this could have been an absolutely phenomenal film. It could have pushed the boundaries of Jurassic Park and science fiction movies. It could have broken new grounds, because another problem that this movie does have, I will agree with Jackie Boy, there is a lack of ambition. There is the desire to rehash animation cells from the original Jurassic Park. There is the desire to rehash plot points from The Lost World and a little bit of Jurassic Park 3. It's just another Jurassic Park film. It's another isolated location where dinosaurs are running amok. It's the same thing. It doesn't really progress the franchise all that much. And every time that it tries to, the studio's holding it back. Every time they try to incorporate a new idea that is new for the franchise and new for science fiction, and even to like progress the Jurassic Park lore, Universal's there to tell them, no, you can't do that. You got to hold it back. You can't do that. You just can't. Why not? I don't know. You just can't. Toys.
Four things that were the driving force. Toys, number one.
Money.
Number two. Hang on, I'll get to money in a sec. One, toys. Two, politics. But we won't get into that. But let's be real. Politics did play a part in this.
Unfortunately.
Three. I was very disclosed, but I'm going to drop the ball here. Somebody who shouldn't have been in the production to begin with and meddled with it anyway because she's married to the head producer, Kathleen Kennedy, got involved because she had left Amblin Entertainment and went to be head of Lucasfilm. got Star Wars off the go the way she wanted it, but she couldn't. But when she realized, like, okay, think about it. The Force Awakens and Jurassic World were the two biggest moneymakers of 2015. She has control of one. Her husband, Frank Marshall, has control of the other one. You don't think she was like, hey, honey,
I want a piece of that pie.
can I have a piece of it even though I'm not, but you don't work at Emblem anymore. But I'm married to you, and according to the laws of California, if I divorce you, I get half your shit. Think how Martha Lucas did that to George, and that's why we don't get the alternate versions of Star Wars. Right? And Frank's like, okay, fine. Also, fire Colin, because he's trying to stop me from killing Luke Skywalker. Like, it's all of that. But the fourth reason, it's not just money. It's yuan money. Yuan. Chinese currency. Because this was at the time the Chinese government decided, let's have Hollywood movies screen here. Their population ate that shit up. And so now Hollywood is not playing to politics. They're not just playing to Kathleen Kennedy. They're appeasing the Chinese government. And you know how they are. And that's the thing. I think this was the first movie to really expose that the money this made, billions of dollars worldwide, wasn't just US. It was now the Chinese dollar was starting to become a factor in box office revenue and interest and decision-making. It was all about getting that fresh, hot, top dollar. I'm just going to say that right now. It was China did play a part.
And it's sad.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really my biggest issue with Fallen Kingdom. And I've never really been able to put studio meddling into a real proper explanation for why it's an issue, other than just saying, the studio stepped in, cut out things that I would have really wanted to see. So this is really the first time I can properly enunciate why that's such a big issue. But I think of all the movies that have suffered from studio interference, there's been a lot. I mean, Justice League is probably like the most outrageous, ridiculous, and overblown case of studios interfering with the director's vision. But at least we did get to see a proper fixed version of that vision, even if it took 4 years of begging. With this movie, though, even in its current state, it is a decent movie, but just comparing it to what it could have been originally, it's just such a shame that the studio were just a bunch of absolute dumbasses.
Yep, it's there's the saying. There's a lot of sayings that, especially from the first two films that Ian Malcolm said, that really sum up things. Like, what was it? I think what did he say? I like what he had said in the first one. Genetic power is the most awesome power the planet's ever seen. This franchise.
You willed it like a kid who found his dad's gun.
And you know what? It's like, and again, you stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could. And before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it. You slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and you're selling. Well, it's how it feels. Wow. It's funny how that scene that has no dinosaurs in it is one of the best moments of the franchise because it sums up the IP as a whole.
Yep.
How to handle it.
Oh my God.
We're 3 out. Wow. We did a better extended cut than they did. In fact, I think all 6 movies, there's so much cut from each film. They should just do a Blu-ray with like the extended editions of each movie.
Final thoughts?
I will still declare this the worst of the series. Not because of anybody involved, not because of what was originally intended, but studio interference ruined this movie, made it the weakest entry. Now, while Dominion did try to fix it, and it is technically a better film, it's not by a long shot. The last 2, in my opinion, stunk. And it is a shame. And it sucks that after this movie came out, I actually wasn't really hyped for Dominion. I couldn't care less. I was so burnt out. that by the time Dominion came out, I wasn't as hyped. Thankfully, Rebirth has rekindled that flame in me, because it's like, okay, you know, you're gonna fix what was supposed to be the final chapter, because even you probably realize, wow, those last two suck so hard. Okay, let's try to fix this, guys. I still consider this the weakest entry, despite there's some stuff that has grown on me. There's a lot of it being held back, and it does lack what could have been. So for me, it is still my original rating. I can't remember what I rated it. I think it was a 5.
I can't remember.
The fact that you made me apologize to Jurassic Park 3 shows you know you're bad. You know you're bad when you make people go back to 3 and say, I am so sorry. I have missed. You know what? To quote Thanos, perhaps I was too harsh on you.
So,
your thoughts?
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a very flawed film. There are a lot of good things about this to like, but there's just so much potential that this movie could have taken advantage of. There's so much that this movie could have done to progress the Jurassic Park franchise, cash in even more on nostalgia craze, and just be possibly the greatest Jurassic Park movie ever made, possibly even surpassing the original. But because of a misguided, idiotic, money-hungry studio, this movie will always be the flawed experience that it is. But despite all of that, like I said, I do like this movie more than I initially did the first in the ensuing years after I first saw it. All of its flaws still reign true, but I also do still think that there is a lot of good things about this movie to appreciate and enjoy. So I do think that while it's not a worthy follow-up to Jurassic World, it still is a fairly solid Jurassic Park film. Very flawed, but it is still enjoyable in its own way. Which is why I will be giving Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom a 7 out of 10. It's a weak 7, still a 7.
The best way I can describe the studio's interference, they were like, oh, we want to put this and this in the movie. We're going to make a great movie. Universal's just like,
can it make money?
It's like, I want the raptor human hybrid thing. I want to explore more on Nublar. I want there to be more importance to the franchise.
Anything to plug? Jesus Christ.
I guess I could plug one thing. Tune in tomorrow at noon, as you will be seeing the first main trailer I can proudly announce for the Star Wars prequel trilogy. We have had teaser trailers. This will be the first full-on trailer that will explore more of the plot, and also an announcement of a release date. I will not say when, I will not say what, but it will be revealed in the trailer. I am so excited for this. It's closer than you think. And I think you guys are going to be very pleasantly surprised with what we have planned. When it comes to Jurassic Park, don't know if I'm going to be here for Dominion. No promises, as the guy says. No promises. But I do have plans to, like I said before, cover Rebirth, do something with it story-wise that still stays true to the legacy we did before. It's going to be a little smaller scale, but we got ideas. We already got plans. We're jotting them down. And, yeah, there's a lot coming out. So tune in tomorrow at noon for the new trailer.
Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. And as always, go check out Jackie Boy's channel. And look forward to the next episode. And as always, go out and if you're going to join a expedition to capture dinosaurs for a questionable, shady business tycoon, bring a gun because you may need to use it on somebody. And I will see you guys in the next video.